Yeah, I think a lot of people would feel that the privilege is there, and it was a better place to be in. A lot of people may not have such kind of backing to start off, but if I wanted to take the privilege route, then I would have. It was very simple for me to go and join my family business, right?
Hmm.
But that is something that I was absolutely against, and I said I'll start something of my own,
Hmm.
and that's why I hustled. Even during college, it was um like the kind of background that you hear about. Why would you think that somebody like me was doing side hustles and trying to do various things and earn money on my own, buy cars on my own?
Hmm.
So the one thing, like for me in my mindset has always been that I want to be able to start supporting my house and contributing to my house as soon as possible, and I don't want to be the one taking that support, right?
Hmm.
So that's the mindset that I do have, and along with my passion for various things like investments and vehicles and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the society barricade broke for me the day I left my MBA.
Hi, hello, namaste to all my listeners. I'm your host, Sarthak Varshney, and I welcome you all to the Balls of Steel show, where you get an insight into the business mindset of the entrepreneurs. Dhandho Ni Soch. Our today's guest is Mr. Chirag Gupta. Hi, Chirag.
Hey Sarthak, very good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing very well. Doing very well. Things are shaping up quite well for us and for me, and all good on my side. And I hope the same at your end.
Yes, yes, yes. Things are going really, really well on my part as well, and I'm really happy, that I'm there with you. So, guys, before we move forward, let me introduce. Not, I wouldn't say really, really introduce, but I'll say a small introduction, like what Chirag is doing. So, guys, Chirag is another Forbes 30 under 30 who's there with us on the show, and he's Forbes 30 under 30 Asia. So thank you so much, Chirag. It's a real, real pleasure having you on the show, and it means a lot for me that you're here. So thank you so much for coming on. And yes, I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Thanks, Sarthak. No, I've been following your show for a while, and the kind of quality entrepreneurs and the quality stories that you're bringing to your audience um, has has been really great. And just wanted to be a small part of the journey with you, and really humbled to become a part of this journey and to be on the show today with you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Chirag. That means a lot to me. Okay, so Chirag, let me ask you the question. Okay, what is the business that you are into because of which we are gonna say that you've got the balls of steel?
So I run an adventure travel, experiential travel startup called Dior.
Okay.
Um, what we basically do is we standardize this highly fragmented multi-day tour industry
Mm-hmm.
by providing upgrades, uniform upgrades in experience design. We
Mm-hmm.
take care of the quality, service levels, so that we can ensure a reliable experience for the end customer by enhancing, the occupancy levels, profitability, revenues for the tour operator, and then bringing them on a complete tech stack. So that's what we do at Dior. That's cut short. We're providing experiences, adventures for the millennials who are looking to do adventurous trips and experiences across offbeat locations across India and Southeast Asia at the moment.
Okay, across India, across Southeast Asia. That's really great,
So
and
I would
that's
actually say that uh, more than me, I think my customers have balls of steel.
right.
I mean, we like one of the trips that we do is a bike trip to Leh Ladakh, for example.
Okay.
This
Right.
is about 1,900 kilometers of riding a bike, a Royal Enfield bike, all
Right.
the way from Manali, going all the way to Leh, covering Nubra, Pangong, and then ending the
Uh-huh.
trip at Srinagar. So it's a good
Right.
10-night, 11-day trip, and you have to
Okay.
ride consistently every day about 100, 200 kilometers or more. And you need balls of steel to do that. The terrains are tough. There's very limited data, internet and connectivity in these areas. um,
Right.
these are not ideal conditions to ride a bike, but if you are an adventure enthusiast and you really like to explore the unexplored, and
Mhm.
you have balls of steel, then that's why you would go on this kind of experience.
Oh my God. To be very honest, Chirag, this is one of those experiences that I want to do, but I'll be very honest, I'm not that fit physically that I can go on such a great experience as of now. But yes, it's there in my list that I will do it sometime in my life. And that Ladakh trip is definitely a very, very to do thing. So, guys, if you want to do that, you know whom to contact and which company to go to. Okay, so Chirag, now that we know that what kind of experiences that you're providing and everything in there, why don't we dive a bit into your business and give me more details about the business, how the business functions, and just in and around the business.
Yeah, so I think before I get into how the business functions, uh, one thing, because the audience over here could be a lot of younger guys who are looking at starting up their businesses in the near future, or could be, just recent entrepreneurs. I think
Right.
one thing that is very important to understand is that what we are doing today versus what we
Mm-hmm.
started off in 2016 are two different things, right?
Okay.
And it is absolutely okay and fine for any entrepreneur or a team of founders to pivot,
Mm-hmm.
and not once, not twice, but time and again until you find the right role model. A lot of us founders, we have this thought process that this is our baby, this business is our baby, and this is what the original idea was, and this is exactly what will work out, and it's fine. It's fine if it doesn't work out, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can tweak your baby, unlike real life. This is a business which you can tweak, and you can find different product market fit, and you can take advice from mentors and investors and a lot of other people who are there out there who are giving free advice to startups, who have been there and done that, and pivot your business. So I'll start by sharing about ourselves. The company is called Deyor today.
Right.
We started off by calling ourselves Deyor Camps.
Okay.
The idea was to build up something along the lines of Oyo, but for the
Mm-hmm.
camping space. We
Okay.
were aggregating campsites across India, and
Okay.
if today, if we ask anybody, let's go camping in Coorg or let's go camping in Dharamshala, you would have no
Right.
idea, who to book through. It's such a fragmented market. The idea was to have 1,000 campsites across India, branded with Dior. You go into Dharamshala, Manali, Kasol, whether you go to South, Northeast, whatever part of India you go to, the idea was to have campsites that were branded with Dior. And we did fairly well.
Right.
We got our first 100 campsites actually across North India. And, it
Okay.
was all there. It was all, there was a lot of noise around this. We got our rounds of funding as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but we soon realized that it's a weekend market, camping. You don't see corporates sort of going in the middle of the week, or you don't see people just going in the middle of the week to do camping. It's more of a weekend market. It's more of a seasonal market, very small ticket
Right.
size. It just didn't make economic sense. It made sense in terms of volume, and you could really grow your business in terms of size, in terms of number of campsites, but the volume was never going to come what we wanted to create, and that was absolutely
Mm-hmm.
fine. We've been blessed, Sarthak, with the right investors and mentors since day one, and they've always
Okay.
been kind to guide us. And one thing is very important, that if you have investors on board, share. Don't only share your success, share your failures as well. Apart from
Right.
success and failures, if you're going through struggle, if you're struggling through hard times, share that as well, because
Right.
these guys have been there. They have seen these struggles as well in multiple businesses that they've run and that they've invested in, and they would definitely have ideas to sort of help you, come out of these trouble times. And that's
Right.
what we
Right.
did. And then we pivoted. We pivoted two, three times. We went from being a camping aggregator to being a weekend getaway company to being a travel community. And then in around Jan 2018 is when we found our real calling, where we said, fine, we'll be a
Mm-hmm.
multi-day tour company. We're going to do bike trips. We're going to do trekking. We're going to do backpacking trips. Um, we are going to cater to the millennials of India. We're going to be a B2C brand, reach out to millennials directly, and show them the experiences that they really want to do. And you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we did. That worked like a charm. May 2016 we started. Jan 2018 we did our final pivot. Today we're sitting in a post-pandemic world, post-pandemic pre-vaccine world, and we haven't changed anything. We're really relishing what we're
Mm-hmm.
doing. We're really enjoying the growth, and
Right.
whatever had happened for the best, and it worked out for the better, right? So
Right.
so yeah, so that's been the journey so far. And just to deep dive um, on the business front, I think um, it's very exciting because we're tapping a space uh, which has very limited information online. If
Mm-hmm.
today you have to do a bike trip across the northeast parts of India, or a road trip across the northeast parts of India, covering some of the seven sisters, you'd be
Mm-hmm.
so lost. Where you go, where you find your content. You might
Mm-hmm.
find a local operator online, but you don't know what kind of experience is going to guarantee you. What there is no price benchmarking, so you don't know if you're being ripped off or not. And these are major
Mm-hmm.
problems. Now, millennials in this country, they're done with the traditional style of travel. They wouldn't want to go and just do a boring, a vacation to Jaipur, or just stay in a property somewhere. I think it's happening a little now post pandemic, but it's not something that's going to happen in the long term. People really want to go out,
Right.
and they want to explore as much as they can in a shorter
Right.
time. Another
Mm-hmm.
very important thing that we are capitalizing on is a concept called community traveling. Now,
Okay.
globally, if you see, there's this thing called community living, and that's why things like
Mm-hmm.
co-living and hostels have become so famous globally.
Right.
It's a
Right.
similar concept, community traveling. For what happens with
Okay.
us is, like, Sarthak, if you're a solo traveler, um,
Mm-hmm.
doing a complete road trip or a bike trip or a backpacking trip across a region can become expensive because you need to share accommodation, you need to share transportation. Now we come in as
Right.
a company. Our typical trip has about 30-40 people, and we
Right.
just let people book alone, or they can be groups of two, three, smaller groups, group of 5 or 6 people, and then eventually they will travel with a group of 30-40 people who are all like-minded. So I'll meet you on the trip, but before the trip, you and I haven't met ever. We don't know each other. But I'll meet you on the trip, and then we become best of friends for life because we have similar likes, similar dislikes, similar aspirations, similar thought process. We are on the same trip at the same time with the same company, and we've seen
Right.
such good relations form. And one exciting thing that we see a lot is, say if you booked with your group of three friends and I booked with my group of three friends, our individual groups don't know each
Uh-huh.
other. A couple
Right.
of months later, these six people come together as one new group, and then they've become like travel buddies. So they're all traveling together. So that's what's really happening, community traveling, and we're really loving this entire concept.
Right, 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 right. That's great, yeah. This idea actually looks great, and I'm really excited to see, how you found this idea out of community living and co-living, co-working to community traveling. So that's quite exciting to see. Okay, okay. So now that we know that this is your business and how this thing works, so why don't you also tell me about how easy is it for anyone to reach out to you and work around this thing and get from, like, let's say I'm a layman and I want to get this trip sorted, so how easy it is for me?
Yeah, it's fairly simple. Like I said, we're a direct to consumer company.
Right.
We have a website at the moment, right? Dior.in or diorcamps.com. Both of them will redirect you to the same page, right?
Right.
You go there. There are a lot of options of different trips that you can explore. There's Ladakh, Spiti, Northeast, Andamans, and then even abroad, there's Bhutan, and then now we're launching more and more destinations. So it's very simple. You just take a look at what destination you like. You see the trips that are being offered for that destination, and
Right.
you can, after that, a calendar will open up. It will show you that these are the dates on which these trips are operating. You can select the calendar. You can select the date that you like, and a coupon code will be auto applied for you, and you just book it. So it's as simple as that. Sorry. Apart from that,
Oh,
you know
wow.
we understand that sometimes people have lots of questions, so we do answer everything on the website, like what's included, what's not included, what's the detailed
Right.
itinerary, what are the things to carry on a trip, what are the frequently asked questions that we've populated, and we've answered them on the website. But even if after all of this, in spite of sharing all this information, if people still have questions, which usually they do, then we have a team, who you can contact. The numbers are on the website. You can just WhatsApp them. You can call them. They're available most of the time. And these are guys who have been on most of these trips. They know the know-hows of these trips. They know what really happens in these destinations, and they can actually share the experience
Right.
in the form of a story with you. Because it's their travel
Okay.
story as well. And this we see
Okay.
as a nice concept. A lot of people have these conversations with our teammates, and then they just get that extra confidence to book it. One thing that we have focused on a lot as a company is content. So if you
Right.
actually go on our YouTube page, Deyor Camps, you'll be able to see, we've shot content of our Spiti, Bhutan, Ladakh trips. The idea is, and these are really good
Okay.
cinematographic video production shots. 1 minute to 5 minute long. The
Okay.
idea is to actually show
Right.
the real experience to the customer and to prove to them, to build that trust that we have been there,
Right.
we have done this, and we
Right.
know what we're talking
Right.
about. Because you know what,
Right.
the challenge in this space, and I think the challenge in any space is when a particular company becomes successful, there are
Mm-hmm.
a lot of replicas that sort of start coming in, which is not a bad thing, right? It just validates that there is a market and there's more people trying to sort of pick up a bite of that chunk of that market. But these in our business we call them fly by night tour operators. They come. This could be
Right.
a just fresh out of college kid. He says, you know what, even I can do a trip like this. I can do some digital marketing. I can sell it to people. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they will find some stock content, or they will take content from our videos and mix it up, and just sort of uh, push it out there on the internet. Convince 10,
Right.
15 people. India has a huge population. There's enough people you can convince by providing false information as well,
Right.
unfortunately. And and then eventually their experiences end up being really bad. So now we actually
Mm-hmm.
get a lot of these stories in our company. People call us and they say, look, last time we traveled with XYZ company. Obviously, I'm not going to name them. And
Right.
we went there. They said there's going to be food. There was no food. They said the accommodation is going to be of a certain standard. That standard was obviously not met. Sometimes
Right.
it has also happened, and this is what concerns me the most. People have reached the pickup location, right? And there is
Right.
nobody at the pickup location. There is nobody.
Oh my
So
God.
so we have actually got calls at times from people saying we booked a trip for Ladakh or XYZ location from so and
Right.
so company, but there's nobody here. Uh, is there your trip
Mm-hmm.
happening on a couple of days from now or whatever that we can sort of come on? Because these are guys. So usually, like if I give you the example of the northern trips that happened across Himachal and Ladakh and all,
Uh-huh.
they start from Delhi,
Right.
and most of
Right.
the audience that comes is from down south. So somebody imagine who's taken a flight from
Right.
Bangalore all the way to Delhi now
Right.
doesn't have someone who's ready to take him on a trip because
Right.
that person does not exist as an entity. So so what happens in that
Mm-hmm.
case? They are willing to spend 3 4 days extra, spend another 30 40,000 rupees on our trip, and go for that trip. And our trips are expensive.
Right.
We don't sell cheap trips. The only thing that's cheap on our website or reasonable, I would say, is other trekking experiences, right?
Okay.
But if you look at any of these road trips and bike trips and backpacking trips, there is nothing going to be
Mm-hmm.
cheaper than 25 to 30,000 rupees per person. So, so
Okay.
it's a lot of money for someone taking a flight from Bangalore, making all the arrangements. The weather is different down south. They don't have
Right.
the necessary clothes to also come, far north. So they have to spend that much money
Right.
on buying down jackets and other gears for the trip.
Mm-hmm.
And having made all that
Right.
investment and then nothing to show for it, we feel bad. But it's the harsh reality.
Harshal. Okay, okay, okay. I get it. So this is quite interesting, and then these are quite good stories that you have told me, and I'm pretty sure that you must be having more stories. But since we're talking about the business right now, and you've told me about this camping and everything, that how you started and how this business is actually working out right now, I would want to know that how was your experience of actually partnering with the local campsite business, because you really had to go down there, and you also mentioned that initially with in the first idea of aggregating camps, you got more than 100 base camps with you. So how was this experience of partnering with the local campsite business when you began Deyor, and how did you really convince them to get on board with you and work with you? How was that experience?
Yeah, I think great question and makes me reminiscence of of a very difficult past because you know plain and simple. these are like, let's take an example of Rishikesh, one
Right.
of the best sites we had, destinations we had, one of the destinations that gave us a lot of business.
Right.
Now imagine what really happens, and even though we tried to change it and then we sort of moved away from it, nobody has come yet
Mhm.
and done what we tried to do, right? So the same thing
Okay.
that I want to tell you now happens even today, what we were trying to change about 4 years ago. A
Okay.
typical campsite owner in Rishikesh.
Right.
And there are three types of campsites.
Right.
One is a dome campsite, one is a Swiss, and third is an alpine, right? So different characteristics
Right.
of each campsite. Now, and we were of the idea that we are only going to tie up with Swiss tent campsites. Swiss tents are basically tents that are attached, that have an attached washroom as well, right? So a certain
Right.
experience will be provided when you have an attached washroom and everything, along with privacy. Now,
Right.
um, these are guys, campsite owners, who work on paper and pen. They
Right.
don't have a computer. They don't have a concept
Right.
of receptions as you see in hotels. Okay, so it's completely
Uh-huh.
different from what you experience in a hotel. There's very limited staff. There's 3 or 4 people who are responsible for taking care of the campsite. There are a couple of
Mhm.
people in the kitchen, so and they call them chefs. Who are very basic
Right.
guys, who also you will see after they're done cooking, they will be doing odd jobs. But
Right.
for us, that was also a challenge that we had to take care of, because our standard operating procedures that we had set, we wanted to make the experience of a campsite as good as a hotel while keeping it as close to nature and the concept of adventure as possible,
Wow.
right?
Okay.
And uh, that meant imbibing the idea of hospitality into each and every campsite. So
Okay.
so now imagine, I mean, these are just people who are just sort of locals in Rishikesh or locals in whatever region
Mhm.
we're talking about, and they've just been
Right.
hired by the guy who had a little bit of extra money to set up land and set up campsites. And he's also training them on the job. He's also just
Right.
telling them, what has to be done, what doesn't have to be done. Um, so so
Mhm.
training these guys was a massive challenge for us. We had an entire team that we had roped in, who was responsible to train these
Mhm.
guys, giving them proper clothing, telling them that you cannot just walk around wearing like a vest and like something which is like a local thing. You have to, you don't see that in a hotel. Like if you're in a hotel in Uttar Pradesh, you will not see someone wearing like a dhoti kind of thing and coming on to serve you food,
Right.
right? Unless that's the concept of the hotel. But over here, it was
Right.
like whatever I'm comfortable with, I'll just wear it and I'll serve. So every minute detail had to be taken care of.
Right.
But from my perspective, so that was obviously from the SOP perspective and getting the campsite on board. From my
Right.
perspective, what was more important was that the owner of the campsite, he's the
Mhm.
most important guy to engage with. He
Mhm.
has a campsite manager who's just taking bookings on the phone. He's writing down on pen and paper. If there's a peak season time,
Mhm.
we have seen this ourselves. I've seen this as a customer. Even before I was in the trade, I have made a booking at a campsite. It's New Year's time or Christmas time, and I walk in and he says, "Ha, sir, your name is written, but you know what? Somebody else walked in. We've given them the camp, so we don't have a tent for you. I'm sorry."
Oh.
You know,
Oh my God.
and and the biggest malpractice that happens in this industry is that this concept of walk-in customers. If I am a camp
Right.
manager and you have made a booking for
Mhm.
1,000 rupees a night, somebody else walks
Right.
in and offers me 2,000 rupees. There is no way on earth that I will say no to him. So I will give it to him. And these kind of malpractices were really bad, because this meant customer booking bounce rate increasing, which eventually meant the experience would get screwed. Now imagine if as a company you have 200 250 customers in Rishikesh over a New Year's Eve weekend, and suddenly all your
Right.
campsites are denying inventory. That is a pure
Right.
indication that the other campsites also do not have inventory. So where do you send your customers? You can't just tell them that please go back to Delhi or wherever you came from. So these things
Mhm.
are important, and that's why putting in the system of a system, a computer, uh, of technology was very important for us, where it could be monitored by the owner of the campsite, because the owner of the campsite is living in Delhi or living somewhere else. He's just
Right.
appointed a camp manager, right? Who is
Right.
doing whatever he feels like doing in that moment. It's all based on his emotions. And the
Right.
owner cannot monitor. The owner can only make a call the next morning and say, "Kitna billing hua?" or something like that. So uh, there is no way to monitor for him. Now we had to put in these
Right.
systems, and it was difficult for us to convince those guys, look, you have to buy a computer. And we were not funded like, how some of the startups today are, that we can offer phones and
Right.
computers and all sorts of gadgets to the campsites. We were uh,
Right.
always like frugal as entrepreneurs and low on the funding side. So having said that, we had to build up a tech which could be uh, operated on even a basic smartphone. Even the most
Right. Right.
smartphone, you can open up a light basic website and just upload it
Right.
quickly. So, and then some campsites had their websites, had their, computers or laptops. So it was easy to integrate with them. But the other campsites we built up on the phone, and
Right.
that was sort of the best way forward. So yeah, these are, I mean, some of the challenges that we faced. Just onboarding these guys it was easy
Right.
to go and tell them that, look, we're going to give you business, and that was the easiest bit. They would say, all right, fine, we're happy to collaborate. We'll put up a board outside. We'll do whatever you want. Just give us business. They are hungry for business. But when you start
Right.
telling them that this business is going to come if X, Y, and Z terms and conditions are followed, and these are the protocols that you
Mhm.
follow, then it became a challenge. But yeah, still,
Okay.
all said and done, we managed to get 100 of these guys onboarded. I feel bad for the fact
Right.
that we had to stop it. I think it's a great idea. Maybe it was a little early for the market,
Right.
but we'll definitely see somebody else doing this in the next 3 to 4 years for sure.
All right. Okay. But since you're talking about it, I do want to know why did you guys had to stop it?
So yeah, so we stopped it because economically it wasn't making sense for us. The numbers weren't making sense. See, it's a small commission that you can take from a campsite, 18%, 20%, right? And
Right.
a
Right.
camp
Right.
a night is just $1,000. So for
Right.
me, and 1,000 is a higher side, I'm telling you. So usually it's about 800, 700. So even if you take $1,000, you're making 18%. As a company, you're just making $180 a night per camp,
Oh my gosh.
right?
Right.
So
Right.
so
Right.
when you even if you talk about scale, if you 100 times that or you 1,000 times that, it's nothing. It's not going to
Right.
meet the tech requirements, the whole business requirements of numbers are required. And see, one thing
Hmm.
that me and my co-founders we always believe is that if you want to build up a business, be frugal,
Hmm.
right? And it's
Right.
okay if you're burning money right now, right? You've
Hmm.
got your funding, you're burning money, but you're burning very considerably, and you know what path
Right.
you're leading to. Eventually, it has to be a profitable business. Your business has to break even. If I am going to earn 180 rupees and I'm spending 1,800 rupees in digital marketing spend to acquire that customer, it will never make sense
Right.
economically for me. And we did the
Right.
numbers, we did the financial projections, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years projections. The numbers never made sense. So we knew we had to pivot.
Okay. 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 So numbers, the financial projections, and all those things came up and showed you that Chirag, it's time to pivot.
Yeah, along with obviously, like I said, the amazing mentors that we have, and we
Right.
share feedback. One thing is important to do: share at least quarterly update emails with your investors, if not monthly, and just get an idea of they will get an idea of where you're headed. There could be some red flags that you are not really being indicated or you are not really realizing that they could raise
Mhm.
for you. And it really
Right.
it really is a blessing to have these guys on your side.
Okay. So see, I mean, this sounds so cool, and this one question has got you to tell me so much that happened. So, guys, listeners, what I want you to understand is that this is one idea that has taken place, and how difficult was it to convince those people on the campsites, and then the numbers happened and all those things happened, and then the pivot came into place. Okay, so that is there, and on that part, I would also want to say that mentors play an important role. So, and since Chirag, you have been focusing a lot on mentors, I would want to know how did you really find your mentors, and and when did you really get to know, get that kick inside you that okay, this person is sought to be my mentor.
Okay, so I had um, a bit of an unfair advantage in this case,
Okay.
which at that time was needed. In today's day and age, is
Okay.
not needed, because today's day and age there are a lot of mentors out there. Like for
Hmm.
example, including myself, I have recently opened up a public Instagram account where I am openly telling people that if you're a startup, and if you're looking to build, completely pro bono, I want to help. Because you know what, I was 4 years ago. It was a very
Right.
difficult time and difficult space to be in, and it's very haunting for a new entrepreneur to come into the startup space, not have connections, and feel completely isolated and left out. And especially now with times of
Right.
pandemic, where there aren't enough conferences and things happening, you can't even really go out and network with people. So a lot of people like me, a lot of founders like me, who have even made it big or made it medium or whatever, or they have, you know, I wouldn't like to classify in terms of making it big or whatever. I would like to classify in terms of having a cumulative set of years of experience in this industry, because
Right.
then you've made your
Right.
connections and network, and you have learned by making the mistakes as to what should be done and what should not be done. Now, for me,
Right.
I'll just rewind a little. Um, I I am a MBA dropout. So I
Right.
dropped out of my MBA within 3 weeks of joining it, because I realized that this is something that I just cannot do. And where I live, I met this gentleman. He lives in the same colony. Goes by the name of Dheeraj Jain. He runs a fund called Redcliffe Capital,
Right.
renowned name in India. And he heard my
Yes, I've
story,
heard of
and
that.
yes, he heard my story, and he said, "Why would you leave college?" And I sort of had a very very brief chat with him, which turned into more detailed chats.
Yeah.
And then he said, "You know what? I have a leveraged buyout fund in the UK, and I'm looking to move the fund to India and start investing in Indian startups." And this is at the time when he has not even started his fund in India, right? And and I said, "You know what? I will work. No, I don't care about the pay. I don't care about anything. I just care about the experience that I can gather here. So I will work for you."
Mhm.
And the startup space is what I'm absolutely excited about. So tell me,
Mhm.
where do we start? And that was, I think, the most uh,
Right.
important statement that I've ever passed in my life, because the very next day he called me and he said, "I'm booking you on a ticket to Gujarat. Uh, so you're going to go there." So and so the Gujarat Vibrant Summit was happening, which was inaugurated
Okay.
by Prime Minister Modi, who obviously was not Prime Minister at the time, but he was there,
Right.
and he came, and he sort of sent me to the Vibrant Summit. This was for startups. Now,
Okay.
these I that was the starting point, and from there, I was the first person to have joined Redcliffe. And then the vision for me that was given to me was to set up the Indian office. And he said, "You know what? You have an open pass. You can go to Gujarat, you can go to Bangalore, Chennai, within Delhi, Gurgaon. There's so many startup opportunities. Go and meet as many founders. We're going to be sector agnostic, and
Okay.
just come back and tell me which are the startups that you think I should invest in, and why do you think I should invest in them." So that meant for me to meet so many enterprising entrepreneurs of our country. I must have met
Mm.
over the next 1.5 2 years more than 350 to 400 startups, right? And obviously
Wow.
what I mean is their entrepreneurs, right? Their founders, and
Right.
everything from fintech to edtech to travel tech, anything you talk about it, every sector we must have covered. um,
Mhm.
and and it's not that we just met them; we also invested in them. So I was personally part of close to 22 investments that happened, right? And
Wow.
22 investments which was sort of which I was a part of. So either I recommended them, or I sourced the deal, or I worked on the research aspect of it, or I communicated with the founders further to understand, or I
Mhm.
did more market study. So 22 deals
Mhm.
we did, and some of these are very big names in the industry. For example, PSafe, another great company
Yes.
in
Yes.
Gurgaon, Burger Singh.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Right.
innovate,
Okay.
which sold to Oyo.
In a way,
Uh,
yes,
yeah,
you're
so
working taken up by Oyo.
yeah, so some of these deals we sort of participated in, and the first investment I still remember was Coho. At that time, it was called Zocalo. This is in the co-living
Okay.
space. A great
Okay.
company built by Uday Lakkar. So the idea is that almost 8 or 9 of these 22 investments have already given us exits, or partial exits at least.
Wow.
So we've done fairly well.
Okay.
Now when I joined
Mhm.
Dheeraj, when I did pass that statement of wanting to work for him, one thing that I didn't mention before
Mm-hmm.
and that I did mention to him was that, look, eventually I want to be a first generation entrepreneur, right? I
Mm-hmm.
come from a business background. My family has their own business, but I didn't want to be a part of that. I wanted to start something of my own. And
Right.
he said, learn about the startup industry, get a couple of years of experience, understand how things work, network. And then when you have a
Right.
great idea, I will be the first one to back you. And he lived by his words. He was my mentor, my first mentor.
Okay.
And I would say professionally, obviously. Otherwise, my first mentor is always my dad, and even
Right.
today he's my greatest mentor. But professionally engaging, Dheeraj was the first mentor that I got, and so he invested. I told him about the fact that I'm passionate about the travel space, and he said, look, whatever you're building, the first check is on me. You use that money and you build it up, and that's how it happened. But
Mm-hmm.
with that Redcliffe networking experience, with Dheeraj's network, it was
Mm-hmm.
earlier a little easy for me to meet people. But network does not
Right.
necessarily convince you or sort of just tell you that you can take it for granted. That it doesn't guarantee you funding. It'll guarantee you a meeting
Mm.
with the right people. But if the right people don't like your idea, they will not put in the money just because they know somebody, right?
Right.
So people believed in us, and people believed in the idea, and that's why we've been able to raise about 4 rounds of funding till date. But
Wow.
um, but yeah, I think where it all started was Dheeraj, and then the network that I built up as Redcliffe, and the network that Dheeraj built up further, and then we were able to convince more people. Some people, you meet along your journey, you'll meet people who are willing to invest in you, either in terms of
Mm-hmm.
capital, and then you'll meet some people who will tell you, use my name on your presentation. I don't have the funds to fund you right now, but I can be a mentor to you. They're doing it
Right.
completely pro bono. They don't want even equity in your company, nothing. But they know that
Right.
they can provide value to you. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so like even today, I have a couple of mentors on my cap table who are not investors in my company, and sorry, not on my cap table, on my presentation deck. They are not investors in
Okay.
my company, but their names are there. They're renowned names in the industry, and I have their permissions to use their names. And it's not just
Right.
about permissions to use their name to excite somebody. It's the fact that if right now I want to make a call to them, they will definitely pick up and tell me where I'm going wrong, and whatever help I need, they'll provide me the most amazing solution that I need for it. So that's always available, and that's the best kind of help that you can get.
Okay, so that's another story of you of having the first mentor and getting out there. But on this part, I would still want to ask you this
Mm-hmm.
question, Chirag. What is your opinion? I won't say how do you think, but what is your opinion uh, about the process or about the difficulty for any entrepreneur to get the right mentor, to find the right mentor in India?
Yeah, I think so. So 4 years ago, it was definitely difficult, very difficult. Today, I don't
Okay.
think it's that difficult. Um, one platform that I was logged into long back, but I just sort of got into again using again now is Twitter, and
Mm-hmm.
I think Twitter is a great platform for you to be able to engage with anybody, right? I mean, even if you talk about the biggest of the biggest names in India, from VSS to the Bansals to anybody, they're all on Twitter, and they will all tweet their
Right.
thoughts over there, and you can comment. You can Some of them have open DMs. You can just DM them. So that's definitely
Right.
one way. But yeah, I think one of the best ways that I have found to always network has been conferences. And for me, I have made it a point, like companies like Your Story, Inc. 42, these guys do great conferences, and it's always good if you can go and be a part of it. I know currently we're in a pandemic world, but still, there are digital conferences happening, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so targeted because you know that this is a speaker. Like, for example, if I know that Mr. Deep Kalra is speaking at a certain conference, I would make it a point
Right.
that he is the chairman of Make My Trip. This is as good as it gets
Right.
in the travel space. I should go and I should meet him. Not because of anything else, but just to be able to share my idea with him, get his 2 cents on the idea. And I have spoken to him in the past at conferences, and he has given me his thoughts on my business, which I have actually, put into process. And had it not been for him giving me that free advice over a conversation, at a conference, I would not have
Mhm.
inculcated that idea, and it's actually worked wonders for me, right? Similarly,
Right.
I've also been to conferences abroad. I remember this one time when I was in China, in Shanghai, and
Mhm.
I was at this big travel conference, and Ritesh from Oyo was there, and I, met him, and we had a great chat about things. So these are people, when you are sitting as a new entrepreneur, as a new founder, you feel that these are people who have made it in life and they're unapproachable. But that is not the case. They're as friendly as friendly gets. If you
Right.
are nice to them, they're nice to you. If you approach them politely and ask them for help, there is no way that they would deny help, right? So
Right.
conferences, but targeted. You can't just sort of go to a person in the travel industry and ask them for help in your fintech
Mhm.
product. It may not work out. So
Right.
so it has to be a targeted approach and know what you're going for, and be very very concise to the point, and ask that question.
Mhm.
If the person can help you, he'll help you. And in a lot of cases, also, I've seen people have not been able to help me because they felt that they were not the right people to help, but they have a network, so they connect you to the right person. So
Right.
something as simple as in my last fundraise, I was falling short of a few, lakhs for closing the round, and I just called up
Mhm.
somebody who I had met a long time back, and I said, this is what we do. You had said that you have great confidence in us. Would you like to participate? And he said, no, I cannot participate right now, but I know two people who were looking for the travel space. So let me just call them. And you would not believe, Sarthak, in the next 48 hours, I had two checks. I had two checks committed on my email that so and so person has connected, and this is the amount that they're willing to invest because we're looking at the space. So that there's a thing now which मांगने से ही कुछ मिलता है. So you have to ask, you have to open up you have to be confident, and you have to go out there and ask. The worst case scenario, you'll get a no. That's the worst thing that will happen. They cannot take anything else away from you, but ask.
My goodness, dude. I can't believe I've checked within 48 hours.
Yeah. So
Oh my god. Oh my God, this is amazing. So, but you know what you told right now, Chirag, this has answered a very important question. I was just about to ask you that, I've heard there's so many Instagram lives happening these days, right? There are many entrepreneur platforms that do on Instagram lives where many people come in, and I've seen that people going up and asking them. So I was actually going to ask you that, what are the kind of questions that you ask, and what are the kind of questions that people should be really asking, because I've generally seen them asking them very, very vague or very basic questions. I guess vague would be a wrong word to come up with, but very basic questions that how do you find funding and all those type of questions. So, but you answered it. So, guys, this is this I would say these are the 2 cents from Chirag, right? That if you're meeting anyone, any biggie out there, and you think so that you need to talk to them, go to them with the right question, a straightforward direct question. This implies to the investors also that you're very learned about your business, and that you know what shit you're talking about, and you are very well focused in your business as well. So when you go to the investor or any other person whom you're trying to seek some advice, be straightforward, be direct, and be very specific in terms of your question, and that is where you will get some help. And also, Chirag, the like when we talked yesterday also, and we both came to the small sort of matching part similarity where we both are Apple fans, right? So when you talked when you talked about that no one was there who said no to you while when you went to them seeking help, this reminded me of another Steve Jobs quote where he says that at his point of time, he went and ran into so many people asking for help, and he doesn't remember anyone saying a no. So when you
yeah,
genuinely seek help, people help you. So
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's there. That's definitely there. Oh my God, so Chirag, so you're filled with so many stories, and I'm just liking the way it's kind of building up. Okay, so now
Yeah,
that we know how the investment came in, how the first check came in, right, and all these things around that part have happened, but I would also want to know, like, which one was very, very, I would say, a hyped up feeling for you. the first check or the second check? Because with the first check, you had a confirmation from Dheeraj that he will put that money into you when you start your own thing. So which one was the bigger hype for you?
Yeah, so I think Dheeraj will be listening to this and he knows this very well. The first check was like I had told him that I've taken it for granted that you're going to be investing because he promised, and he's a man who lives by his word, so I knew it's coming in.
Okay. Right.
And he believed in the idea. So it's not the first idea that I went to him with. I
Okay.
used to be full of ideas, and I used to go to him, and he was very constructive about his feedback. He would say, this is not going to work, this is going to work, and then suddenly when I said, fine, let's mix passion with business, then that excited him and said, fine, this is the one that I will put the money in, start the paperwork for the company. So that was that. But yeah, if you talk about which fundraise was the most this thing hyped up, I will say that every fundraise is equally important. Every
Okay.
fundraise was equally hyped up, and I'll say
Mhm.
that because we raise funds because we realize that either we are short on funds, or we
Okay.
realize that there is an opportunity to scale very quickly
Uh-huh.
and grab a certain chunk of the market share, for which
Mhm.
a certain amount of capital is going to be required, right? So,
Okay.
and there is no certainty. Even if you have the best of investors, the best of VCs, like we do have on our cap table,
Mhm.
there is still
Right.
no certainty that you will get funded. People are not funding another fund or another investor. People are funding you, the entrepreneurs, the team,
Right.
the idea, the
Right.
execution abilities. So,
Mhm.
it's always difficult. But yeah, I'll tell you one fundraise where I completely had my heart in my mouth was
Uh-huh.
uh, was when the pandemic happened, and
Okay.
and the pandemic happened, and we are in the travel space, and there was this whole lot of noise that pandemic is going to be travel industry is going to be the first to die and last to revive.
Uh,
So this is really bad. These are really bad times for the travel industry. Undoubtedly, they were really bad times for the travel industry, but fortunately, so we have not disclosed this round of funding yet, but
okay.
and I don't want to name the investor, but
No
uh,
worries.
really grateful to the investor that and this is a fund. I'm really grateful to them that they committed, and then the pandemic happened. We went into lockdown, and after that, they released the funds. So that was a huge
Oh.
thing for us because I was convinced that they're going to pull back now, and and
Uh,
they didn't. So that that was actually one of the most difficult times. Also, like right before the pandemic,
mhm.
we were talking to this investor, and then we were talking to another investor also who's going to come with a larger check. But
Right.
they sort of read the pandemic, and they said, before we make any commitment to you, we will not invest, because the pandemic is coming in, and nobody had any idea, right? How long is it going to last? We're still in the pandemic, so to say,
Right.
even though the
Right.
vaccines have started getting rolled out. But it's
Mhm.
fine. You will be able to convince some. You will not be able to convince some. Sometimes luck also has to be on your side. But
Mhm.
this was the one where I had my heart in my mouth because I was like, I have to go through an entire pandemic, and I have a team to support. We need the funds, but they were kind enough to sort of release the funds. We did come to an agreement, however. It was a mutual agreement that we are going to use the funds very cautiously, and the funds are not to blow away during the pandemic because there is no business to be done. But
Right.
we will find out the right ways to also to bring new solutions to the market during the pandemic and to be able to still remain relevant in the eyes of our community. And that's what we exactly use the funds for. So yeah, that was a
Okay.
tough one.
Okay.
Sorry.
But kudos, yeah, kudos to you, Chirag, and heartiest congratulations. I mean, this is one of the first and the brightest good news that I would have heard for the pandemic. So kudos to you, like
Thank you.
genuine one.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on, Chirag. Now that we know a lot about the business, and there must be much more which we would want to know from you, right? But now you tell me about your journey from the very beginning, right? Like before the MBA dropout and all those parts. Start from the very very beginning, and then connect the other till the dots that you mentioned till now.
Yeah. So So I come from a small town called Bhadoi, which is next to Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh.
Okay.
This is known as the carpet hub of India. The majority of the carpet exporters and manufacturers are
Hmm.
here in Bhadoi, and that's
Okay.
what my family business was at the time as well. Um,
Okay.
Now, it may be a great 2,000, 3,000 crore rupee export business, market, but
Hmm.
or even more. The challenge is that the infrastructure over there now is
Hmm.
much better. But at the time that I was there, when I was early in school, like class one, class two, the infrastructure was not there. So they only
Right.
had up until class one in terms of schooling. So, so the only option for all the exporters and for all the families over there was to send their children to hostels.
Hmm.
I and I believe that I was actually very fortunate to be, to be there and to get that experience because I was sent to Missouri in my early
Okay.
years. Back in the day when I didn't know how to even tie my shoelaces, my parents
That
would
what
drive
age was that?
class one. You know,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So class one. So I'm just trying to sort of put into perspective how young I was, right?
Hmm.
With no idea of the world, no idea of things. We talk about living independent and we talk about learning things, and I think the best place to start is hostel. So I was sent to
Right.
hostel. I was there all by myself, class one to class six. I was there, and then that's when my family moved to Delhi. So then Delhi obviously had all the infrastructure in place, so they got me here, and we've been
Hmm.
living here ever since. But yeah, those 5 6 years in hostel would I would say really great hostels in Georges and Weinberg where I was studying. They really shaped me up very well, and I think it just mentally makes you very strong at that age to be able to take on many challenges in life.
Hmm.
After that, I came here. I was in school in DPS. Um, did my took the commerce field. Then I went to Delhi University, Bhagat Singh South Campus. Did my BCom honors from there. And then it was very typical. Like up until now, the journey was very typical. That I'll do
Hmm.
my schooling, I'll do my undergrad, and then I'll do my MBA, and then I'll join the family business. So that was sort of the idea. But obviously, like something in me was always nagging me that I do not want to join the family business. I do want to start something of my own. I do want to be a first generation entrepreneur, and
Hmm.
I want to build up a name for myself. And
Right.
like I said, my dad, he is very supportive, very helpful. He was never he would never say that come and join us, or why you're not joining us. He said do whatever you like. We have no problem with it. And
Oh.
yeah, so but yeah, but for him to come from the business background, the business is in our blood, so we know how to do business. And I'm a Gupta, so we are Banyas, right? So we know how to do business, and we know how to make money and how to save money. So
Right.
and these are things that my dad would have taught me since day one. So
Hmm.
uh, his most important thing to me, and he always says this, even today he'll say this to me, is that money saved is money earned.
Right.
So so we live on these sort of slogans, and we work on these slogans. So yeah, so I think that's where we were. And then, like I said, I went into my MBA, and he was very supportive. I still remember that day when in the middle of class, I sort of said I have to leave for an emergency. I got into my car. My MBA was just about 1.5 hours drive from my house. Got into my
Okay.
car, came back home. It was not even lunchtime by the time I reached back home. And that day, for some reason, my dad was at home, and he said, "What are you doing at home? Why are you not in college?"
Hmm.
And I said, "I'm so sorry, but I will not be able to do this. I know that we have also invested some money and we've paid some, semester tuition fees. I will go back, and I promise I'll try to get back as much of it as I can. But there is no way that I can go back to study in that campus." So he said, no, if there is a problem with the campus, then let me know, or then, or maybe we can change you to a different college. You want to go abroad to study? I said it's not about the college or the country or anything. It's just about
Hmm.
studying versus working. And I've always had this one thing in me, that money has never been a matter of greed. And it's not because there's
Hmm.
family business and all. Like my parents have always been very conservative in terms of what money they give me, but I'm talking professionally. So
Right.
when I did my first internship, my second internship, my third internship, I always worked on a zero stipend. Zero stipend. I would go on my own,
Mm-hmm.
find these companies, tell them, look, I just want to learn. I want to learn. I want to
Mm-hmm.
learn business. I want to learn work. I want to do
Mm-hmm.
any odd job that you can give me. But I just want to learn how companies operate, how businesses operate, and
Mm-hmm.
how larger MNCs operate. So I have never taken a single penny, in any of my internships, and
Okay.
and it's fine. It's absolutely fine to also take money, but
Mm-hmm.
the motive should be to learn. The motive should not be that if a company is paying me 20,000 rupees stipend, then that, or 10,000 rupees stipend, then I'm going to use this for XYZ shopping, or the shopping should not be the motive to work. Work should be the
Right.
motive to work, right? And your
Right.
passion should be the motive to work. So that is
Right.
what's always been in me, and I think uh, you know Dheeraj also saw that very quickly, and that's why he backed me, and that's what the other investors have also seen, the ability to work, the ability to execute, the want to work at all times, and that's what if you have that kind of passion for work, then there is nothing that is going to sort of take you back.
Right. 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 Okay. Okay. So this is how this is where how your story comes around, starting from Baduy to Mussoorie to Delhi. So they're like three
Yeah.
different cities. Okay, so now that we know how this thing really started, and after, do you could you name the college, MBA college you went to? Is it possible?
Let's avoid that. I think I don't want to avoid
Okay.
any. I just want to avoid any issues, because although there is
Okay.
nothing negative about the college, really great
Right.
college, but
Right.
uh, just want to avoid any
Okay,
discussion on
no
that one.
worries, no worries.
Yeah.
So, from Baduy to Mussoorie to Delhi. Now,
Yeah.
before actually I ask the question, which DPS were you into?
Gurgaon.
Oh, you were in DPS Gurgaon. That's great. Even
Yeah.
I'm also a dip side. So
Oh,
yes.
great. Were you also from Gurgaon, Sector 45?
No, 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 no. I
Okay.
wasn't from Gurgaon, Sector 35. I'm from Greater Noida.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, okay. So moving on. Chirag, now tell me that, since you come from a family business background, and since you also mentioned that, your dad never forced you to come to the business, I want you to tell me that what is that you picked up from your dad from your very early ages in terms of the business, because of which I can say that's where your business mindset had started developing.
So, where I used to live in Baduy, um,
Mm-hmm.
our factory and our house were in the same compound. And
Okay.
I used to be in hostel, obviously, for most part of it. But whenever I was back at home, I was never the kind, who would sort of stay at home or watch TV, or play the whatever Nintendo or whatever used to come at that time. I
Mm-hmm.
would always walk down to the compound and sit in my dad's cabin and just sit there and see work. And if he was taking a round of the factory, then I would take a round of the factory. I probably didn't understand anything, what was happening, what do we do. But it's just being in that surrounding, in that vicinity, was always more exciting for me. Apart from
Right.
that, I think when you have this kind of and my dad is someone who has seen uh, his own business sort of see lots of ups and downs have been there,
Mm-hmm.
from going absolutely into debt to again reviving. There are hard times in every business, and he has seen that, and he has come back stronger every single time. So
Okay.
when you have that kind of ability and that passion for work, then
Mm-hmm.
you also and then you always want your children to be successful. So
Right.
one thing that I did, and I'll be very honest about that, is so after college or after school, I'll say moreover after college, when people were more involved into going out and partying and meeting friends. For me,
Mm-hmm.
it was spending those evening hours after my homework or whatever college work was done with my dad, and just talking when he's back from work, just talking about work and business, and just understanding things, right? And even so that during college, when we had breaks, I would go
Mm-hmm.
into his office here in Gurgaon as well, and just understand how his company is operating. So, so I would take any possible time that I can get to just
Mm-hmm.
understand anything and everything about work. right? Whether it
Okay.
is people
Right.
management, whether it is demand supply, uh,
Hmm.
uh, profitability, sustainability, everything, right? Every aspect of it, and it wasn't me alone. It was him as well who would take out that time after work and also sort of give me all those learnings, and to have a mentor full time at home is really like a great blessing. So
Right.
um, so I had every single piece of knowledge that I wanted at my disposal at home. So I just needed to ask the right questions and I would get the answers. And today, even today,
Hmm.
and when I come back from work, or if I've had a long day, I
Hmm.
do make it a point that I go to him. I spend that half an hour, 1 hour with him. I
Hmm.
share everything about my work with him, the downs, the highs.
Hmm.
Through the pandemic was one of the best time because it was basically like there was no book ever written to to run a business, during these tough times, and you needed someone who has seen the most rainiest of days to
Right.
to talk to and to tell them, how do you handle people at that time? How do you handle your finances at that time? How do you come out of
Hmm.
the pandemic stronger? These are very basic things that, any entrepreneur, any young founder would be absolutely lost about. And
Right.
to have that kind of support by your side was obviously a blessing, and worked out very well for us. So I wouldn't say like there's one thing that I've learned or two things that I've learned. I think everything that I have learned is because of him.
Okay. Okay, so now since we're talking about you and what you have learned from your father, I would also want you to tell me that every businessman has a different mindset. They are distinct from each other, right? So how do you think your business mindset differs from your father's?
Very good question. I think what really differs is that I am in the technology space and he is not in
Right,
the technology space.
right.
So, and I think a lot of us, when we also, try to explain to our fathers that we want to get into the startup space, the tech space, they don't
Mhm.
really understand because they understand dhanda.
Right,
And you're always not always building a dhanda, right? And
right.
even though eventually the goal is to build up a dhanda,
Hmm.
the the steps you take early on may not be. So it's
Right.
not always as gloomy as I made it sound. There are times when
Hmm.
my dad and I bicker a lot, right? And we have very different opinions. And now,
Right.
as we as young guys, we grow up, we also
Hmm.
have different thoughts uh, about things, and we have opinions. And it's not only
Right,
that, but also my other mentors.
right.
So sometimes you feel that you're doing the right thing, sometimes they feel, and you will always feel you're right. But
Huh.
it's just a matter of being able to have that conversation as as meaningfully as it can
Hmm.
happen, and understand that the other person wants the best for you. They're not trying to put you in the wrong direction because they don't have any. I mean, they're your mentor or they're your parent. They would never put you in the wrong direction. So it's okay to have your thoughts. It's okay to feel that the other person is wrong.
Hmm.
But this is one thing that we have always differed on. So while I've talked about being a frugal entrepreneur and I've talked about the ideas of profitability and all, there are sometimes uh, within your business you pick up projects that
Right,
you feel that today it's not going to be a revenue generator for me, but tomorrow it's going to become a huge source of revenue on my balance sheet or
right,
my P&L statements.
right,
Now they don't understand this because for them, if they pick up anything, it has to make money from day one,
right.
right? Because if you're building up from your own pockets and your own, you have a whole family to feed, and you have so many responsibilities versus us who majorly, you have to take care of your business and yourself. You know,
Hmm.
it's 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 very different. So for them, if they are investing $1, they need to know how is that going to bring them two or three. For us,
Right,
sometimes we invest $1 thinking that it'll bring us zero, but
right,
3 years or 4 years down the line, it'll bring us that $10 or $15 return. So,
right.
so that is some place where we do differ a lot. He does not like it when I take up any project which is not revenue generating or not feasible in terms of his thought process. Um,
Hmm.
and especially like we are in the tech space, so sometimes you have to make hiring decisions. Sometimes you have to make product decisions. Um, so it's not always that you all agree, but you find a common ground and you work towards that.
Okay, 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 okay. So guys, this is another insight. I would say the 2 cents insight. So this is a nice word that Chirag has given me, the 2 cents. I'm probably gonna be using this in a lot of my podcasts. Okay, but definitely with you, I'll be using this. So this is another 2 cents from Chirag,
Sure, sure.
and so guys, I believe that this is where you can also learn and talk to your dads and find your mentors there. And for some of you, your dads might not be into business, but then again, whosoever you're idolizing, just find the right thing and talk to them by any way possible and take the things forward. The most important thing is that you talk about it,
Yeah.
and then learn, cribble, have some arguments, because having arguments is not a bad thing. Have the arguments, but then make that talk happen. That's really important.
Sarthak, I'll just add here.
Right,
We talk about friends and family round. A lot of startups
right,
go through a friends and family round. The
right,
whole point of that friends and family round is to find the right friend and family who is willing to back you and then also be a mentor. Because, so like you said, not everybody's father or mother is going to be into business.
right,
But you may have a uncle or an aunt or somebody in your family, immediate family, a little extended family, your dad's side, your mom's side, somebody who is into business, right?
right,
um, if not that, then we've all made so many friends growing up. We've networked so much. We always find founders as well. Like my co-founder is my
mhm.
childhood friend. I
Wow.
have known him since my days at DPS. You know, so
Okay,
so for me, and even his dad is into business, right? So for me, if my dad was not into business, I would have gone to his dad, and
okay,
or his family, and I would have found one person who is into business who would be able to help me. Now, this is I'm
right,
talking back in the day, but today, when there are so many people, so many founders like me who are willing to help young entrepreneurs, absolutely free of cost. Why not just reach out to us? If you don't have anybody in your network, you have us in your network, and we are willing to help you. So I think a lot of founders have now started realizing that it is time to give back to the society, and we are very much willing to do that. And there is no limitation on the amount of support that is available for all of you listeners, and there will never be any limitation in terms of the amount of support. So nothing to be stressed about whatsoever.
wow. I mean, इससे ज्यादा तुम लोग और क्या चाहिए? चिराग ने खुद से बोल दिया है कि आ जाओ. I mean, guys, see, not to boast or brag, but Chirag has done good enough. He has scaled, he has achieved those heights, and it's not me but Forbes speaking. Come on, not even Forbes India, Forbes Asia. So believe him when he says this, and do seek that help. Definitely, you're gonna grow. On that note, before I actually jump on to the next leap of the questions, I would want to know, Chirag, that you had an inheritance from your father, right, from your dad's business, but
Mhm.
so why didn't you think of innovating that business in the first place and then probably starting something out?
See, I want to be a serial entrepreneur. Uh, so
Okay,
that is on the cards. First I'm going to do
okay,
this, and then we'll do something else later. So I'm
okay,
still growing and learning, and all of us we learn every day. I'm not ruling
right,
anything out. Uh,
right,
there may be something exciting that we do a couple of years down the line on that front as well.
right. So probably right now it's like you'll be completely setting up Deyor till the point it becomes an autonomous body, and then help dad's business grow and other businesses grow, something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, not help his business grow, but create a new arm out of his business. It
Right,
is an opportunity that is there. There is
right,
a true potential around it. I personally feel that what I want to do with his business may not be the right time right now. Um,
right.
you know, um, it may be better 2 or 3 or 4 years down the line.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm not jumping into it. Plus, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing at Dior. I'm really excited about what you're building. I'm really excited about the growth.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that's really got me kicking right now. So, yeah, as an entrepreneur, I always have thoughts. And because I want to be a serial entrepreneur, I'm always thinking of the next venture. But,
Mm-hmm.
I have to be true and committed to this one. See, I'll tell you one thing. A lot of people I've met in my journey who
Right,
I speak to, and, they're spending their Mondays doing X and Tuesdays doing Y and Wednesdays doing Z. And they're still
mm-hmm.
early stage, right? So they haven't really, got a base. My
Right,
serious point to them is that first, build up your base. Everybody should have a side hustle and you should always
mm-hmm.
have a side income. There is no denying that. But your base should be strong enough for you to be able to spend time on your side hustle. If your base is not strong enough, stop everything and make it strong. Otherwise,
Right.
because the simple thing, you cannot be jack of all trades.
Absolutely.
You try to be a jack of all trades, you'll be master of none. At least master one, and then look at something else. So similarly for me as well, I am still building Dior. We are far from perfect.
Mm-hmm.
We are far from the level that we want to be at, and
Mm-hmm.
until we don't reach that, I don't think I will be even, setting up uh, something as simple as the company for the next venture. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where we are.
Okay. Got it. So that's a good insight again, Chirag. Now let's come back to your very first starting point, that is Badoy. Now that you, as you mentioned, that Badoy is a place near Varanasi and all, that's a religious and cultural place, and all that stuff is there. Can you remember something and tell me that how did that place affect you while you were in that place, and affect your mindset while you were growing up? Be it even if that was a few years, if you remember anything from that.
See, I'll tell you honestly, it's been a long time since we left that place. I
Right.
think it has been about 15 years,
Okay.
and since we moved from Badoy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, I went to Badoy in October.
Okay.
After 15 years, I went to Badoy in October after the like when things had started opening up,
Right.
right? And while I do not obviously remember much because see again, most of my time when I was in Badoy was spent in hostel. So I was actually
Mm-hmm.
spending less time in Badoy and more time in Missouri. While
Okay.
my family was in Badoy. And from what I can recall, I think we used to get 3 or 4 months off in a year. So that was
Mm-hmm.
all that I was spending in Badoy. And even at that time, out of those 3 4 months, you spend 1.5 months in your sort of grandparents' house, which my nanny side is from Amritsar. So I used to spend time there and then spend another 1.5 months here. So it was very, very distributed and it was not really concentrated to one place. All I recall from that time was just family and family and family and more family and just people visiting and me traveling and this and that. But yeah, I think the real thing that I can say is that it's a small town, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
small town, and this is what I'll tell you from my experience in October when I went there, right?
Okay.
It's a small town.
Mm-hmm.
There are big exporters, very big exporters, and
Okay.
they are doing a tremendous amount of business, right? They're exporting
Oh.
to Germany, they're exporting to US. These are the markets that have hot demand for carpets, right?
Right.
And they're doing crores and crores in export. Their bottom lines are extremely heavy. They're minting money. They're absolutely profitable businesses, right?
Okay.
Profits that you can't even imagine that they
Okay.
make. Yet they live in a small town like Badoy, which is not even on the map. You can't even find it on the map, right? Um,
Right.
the point is what you learn from, and I stayed there for good 15 days in October.
Okay.
What I really learned from my time there, and I met
Mm-hmm.
so many of these exporters because so I went with one of my cousins who still has business there, and obviously he's my age. So all the other people his age I met, and they've all gotten into business there now.
Mm-hmm.
So what I ended up learning the most was that they have all the properties in the world, they have all the bank balance in the world, they have all the money in the world, and they have all the establishments in the world, and they have a great running business. But
Right.
one thing that they have managed to remain is humble. They're living in a small town. They can afford whatever you say. They will afford it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're absolutely humble. They will treat you with as much respect. I remember every single day I used to get a call from at least 3 to 4 families saying, "Oh, you've come all the way from Delhi. Please come to my house for lunch. Please come to my house for dinner. Come for
Mm-hmm.
drinks. This that. Just take out time. Come for dessert if you don't have time." The kind of hospitality, the kind of love, the kind of respect that they give you, and they have nothing that I can provide them. There is nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But just the fact that somebody has come from outside and somebody is there, and because they know my family, the kind of love and respect that I was given, and even love and respect is a side which is very important though. But
Mm-hmm.
how humble they are when they talk about their work, when they talk about their future plans. Uh, I don't think they know the concept of bragging. They're just so nice and so simple, and they will very casually tell you stuff. And I have done tours of carpet factories this time,
Right.
and such massive establishments, which I was shocked to see that these kind of establishments would be available over here. and it's just the biggest thing that I learned from there is to be humble, to be nice, the way, and forget me, the way they were treating their staff. And for them, like, there were factories, Sarthak, that had 450, 460 workers
My
working,
God.
right?
Okay.
So you can imagine the scale that I'm talking about. And the
Right.
way, and the mazdoor, the dihari labor that I'm talking about. And
Ha
this guy is the owner. He is doing 200, 300 crore rupees in export,
ha
and he's employing this guy on a daily wage.
ha
And the kind of respect with which he speaks to that guy as well,
ha ha.
it's unparalleled, it's unheard of. And it just made me get a different perspective on life, that you know and we see this a lot over here. We see this in Delhi, Gurgaon, and most of the metropolitan cities, that not everybody is humble, not everybody is nice, uh,
Absolutely.
right? But in smaller towns, there are people who are doing much better than these guys, much better,
Right.
and
Right.
they don't have a complaint in their life about anything, and they
Uh,
don't have gurur कहते हैं ना, किसी बात पे गुरूर ही
hmm.
नहीं है उनमें.
जरूरी
So
नहीं
whether it is someone like me who's like extended family or family friends, or
Hmm.
even their mid-level managers, or even the daily wage employee, everybody is treated with immense amount of respect, and
Hmm.
uh, and that only comes if you're humble.
My goodness, yeah, that's a really really good insight about the place. Now, I would want you to tell me, what did you pick up from Missouri, or for all the time you were there in Missouri, and your schooling happened, your hostel happened. If I have to ask you to, step back in those days and tell me, how did that Missouri time shape your entrepreneurial mindset? What would the answer be?
So I think one of the best qualities that I learned from hostels
Mm-hmm.
was what every hostel turns every child into a sports kid, right?
Sports kid.
Yeah. And what I mean is,
Right,
is an active kid. You have
right.
to wake up at 5:30 in the morning
Hmm.
without fail. You have to run 3 kilometers every morning without fail. They would
Right,
take you outside school, and they would take you, and these are the hill stations. So
right.
it's not a straight road. You climb up, you go down. There's all sorts of terrain that you're tackling.
Ha, ha, ha.
So, right, and today, if you put me on any sports ground in this country, any sports ground, whether it is football, cricket,
Hmm.
volleyball, even hockey,
Right.
I will not be lost. Even today, I will not be lost. I can
Ha,
play any game in this country that you put me, even badminton, anything, right?
ha,
Because
ha.
it is so sports oriented, and they want every kid to be so active, that every sport is a must. You cannot not do any sport. Like I
Ha,
remember they
ha.
used to, like, how we see Olympics today.
Right.
I enjoy watching the Olympics because we used to have our own mini Olympics in hostels where, so Missouri has lots of hostels. There's over 50 plus hostels over there, and there would be an inter school Olympics where, for example, if my school is hosting it, then
Hmm.
there's marathons, there's short put, there's high jump, there's
Right.
all of these things that we see on TV. I have
Hmm.
done it myself. I have participated in inter school competitions, and
Wow.
I think I think that is such a great thing, great learning, and such a great thing to be able to do, because you've been in DPS, right?
Hmm. Right.
I've been in DPS. I doubt either of us would have done this in DPS to an extent, maybe, but not with
Yes.
the level of seriousness that we would have done at hostels.
Right. Right.
So,
Right. Right.
and that also makes you very confident. It makes you
Ha,
very
ha.
confident. It makes you have a different perspective on life as well. And then
Right.
you get to interact with so many people, different hostels, different kids. One of the best things about hostel is that the kind of diversity that you get. You get people
Right.
from abroad,
Hmm.
from different countries. You also get people from all parts of the country. Today, I have friends from Northeast. I have friends from Kerala. I have friends from Goa.
Hmm.
Name the place, and I have friends. And mind you, I was with these guys only from class 1 to class 6, and I feel really bad. This is actually one of
Hmm.
the things that I feel bad about, that I was not there until class 12. I tell my parents even today that क्यों लेके आए मेरे को वापस. You were coming to Delhi. I did not need to come back.
Ha, ha, ha.
Okay, so that's how it's been. And
Hmm.
that's the kind of, and imagine, like, if you know somebody from class 1 to class 6, there's no social media at that time. But even today, somehow we've been able to sort of get back, and somebody took up a class picture, and then they posted this, found people on the timeline, and then I would find five more people on the timeline, five more people would find five more people, and then everybody's connected, and because we've been through that journey together, now there is a bond.
Right,
So
right.
so today I know that most of the parts of the country that I go to, I would
Hmm.
have somebody who I can go and meet, have a coffee with,
Right, right.
go to their house for lunch or dinner, and
Hmm.
I would be given that homely feeling when I sort of go and meet them. So I think these two things combined, the diversity that you get along with how active they make you as a person.
Hmm.
These are two things that hostel can give you, which not many institutions can give.
Absolutely. So, guys, hostel nahi ho to jao, but okay. So, I'll give you another insight from on this part. No, so Chirag has been to hostel during his school days. I have been to hostel during my college days. Chirag has done BBA, but I'm an engineer, so I still can understand what it means to be in hostel. And the things that I really find in common is that one, I am not a sports person, but one thing is definitely there, that hostel life teaches you a lot. It teaches you to be independent. Okay,
Yeah.
that you have to be independent no matter what happens, because uh, with Chirag, he might not have to cook food, right? But he had to be disciplined enough, waking up, doing the other chores. And Chirag, कपड़े तो धुलवाते होंगे ना? I guess ये कपड़े भी धुलवाए थे.
नहीं नहीं, खुद धोने पड़ते थे.
Right. So similar stuff that I have done. So this actually teaches you a lot in an entrepreneurial life. And I strongly believe when you become an entrepreneur, you want to become an entrepreneur, these experiences matter a lot, because at this point of time you don't really have to think that you really need a team. There are times when you probably might be a lone fighter, but you have those guts in you where you think so that, okay, yes, I can sail through. So this is what these experiences teach, specifically being in a hostel. Anything that you would want to add to this, Chirag?
Yeah, I mean, you got the perfect word, which was on my tongue, but I didn't say it. Discipline. There is nothing bigger than discipline in this world, and if you are disciplined, you will achieve whatever you want to achieve without doubt, as long as you're disciplined. And hostel teaches that. Hostel teaches that there's no bigger learning than discipline. That all of these things obviously combined have given great learning, but the the bottom line is that what you actually get as an output of all of this is discipline, and
Uh,
definitely got that.
right, right. Okay. So Chirag, now coming from Missouri to Delhi, what was the change? Because now when you're in Delhi, you're, young enough, a young, handsome, charming boy going to DPS Gurgaon, having fun. What's that this life is teaching you? Because when you're into Delhi, यहाँ तो बहुत शोशा है boss.
So yeah, so I think the first thing that happened for me is that I moved from a boys' hostel to a co-ed school, and
Right.
I saw a very different lifestyle over here. I
Hmm.
saw people were less bothered about being number one in sports and being number one in academics, and more
Hmm.
bothered about impressing the girl who's sitting next to them on the seat. So, and just in class seven, and still very young, but
Right.
you pick up. You're young, you get influenced, you get inspired, uh,
Right.
and at that age you get influenced by the right people, by the wrong people as well.
Right.
So and honestly, the proportion of bad people to good people was not in the favor of good. So
Okay.
everybody was trying to be on their best behavior, I would say, in terms of trying to impress someone. And so you get a bit of air of that,
Right.
and I also sort of fell into wrong company at a certain point in time. But I was blessed to have some
Hmm.
really good teachers who called up my parents. It was not even the scheduled PTM or anything, but they called up my parents and they said, please come, because they knew like my background and that I had come from a hospital kid and that my expectations would be very different. While these people
Right.
in my school, these students had been there since class one, class two, so these teachers had also seen them grow. So they knew that I was
Hmm.
coming from different expectations. And
Right.
they called up, and my parents had different expectations. We called up my parents and they said, look, he's falling into wrong company. These are three, four guys. I still remember those three, four guys' names, and said, just stay away from these guys. Although now all of those three, four guys are doing very well in life, and they're doing good things in different parts of the world, I would say. But
Right.
my parents strictly told me, and my parents have been strict with me throughout my life. While they've also been very open and nice, where strictness was required, they have been strict. When it comes to
Right.
academics, they have been strict. When it comes to not falling into bad company, they have been strict. And the discipline that I have been always taught, I've always listened to them.
Right.
So, I'll honestly tell you, my parents were called, and the next day, very next day, these four guys, they came to me and like, let's go, let's do this. And I literally said, look, I was so naive. I literally said to them, um, I have been asked not to hang out with you guys, and I shall comply. So, and that was that. After that, I did not hang with them. We obviously again became friends 3 4 years down the line.
Uh,
They had also obviously become more disciplined in life. Um,
right.
and now even today we are in touch. But it was a bad phase for them. I would have been a bad phase for me, but I was pulled out of it very very fast. But yeah, honestly, I would say one thing that I did miss when I came into DPS, while DPS is a great school, the teachers were
Hmm.
great, the principal is great, everyone's really good. I think in terms of sports, the kind of emphasis they put on sports is less. The kind of emphasis they put on education is much higher. So it's more like a 80-20 education sports, whereas
Hmm.
hostel was like a 50-50.
50-50.
But
Okay.
50-50 meant that you have to be number one in 50 and number two in 50 as well. Number one in
Okay.
like both sports and academics. Over here, it was like, if you do sports, great. If you don't do sports, great. We don't care. But
That is the
if you
worst.
but if you don't do academics, you will screw your happiness. So that that I did not relish as much. But
Hmm.
but yeah, like I even till date, I make it a point, in my free time, I do indulge in some of the other sport, whether it's
Hmm.
the gym or because gymnasium was also like a big thing in hostel. Although it
Right.
was not about weightlifting, it was more about aerobics. But now whether it's a gym or whether it's golf, uh, or whether it's cricket or basketball, I will still go and I do take out time every week to at least indulge in some of these sports
Right. Right.
every
Right.
week.
Right.
Yeah. So that I missed in DPS and that I missed in Gurgaon. And I think overall also like over here I see in Delhi and Gurgaon, uh,
Hmm.
the culture is is less towards sports. We all know what the culture is more towards, but
Right.
that is something that we all do miss. But there is a whole crowd that you can see. There is no scope for excuses in life. You
Right.
find a crowd, you find a group. If 90 people don't suit your liking, 10 people will suit your liking. You find those 10
Hmm.
people and you hang out with them and you play your
Hmm.
sports with them. And I've been able to find that. So yeah, just
Okay, okay, okay. So now from DPS to your BBA in DU. So how were
BCom
you?
honors.
Sorry, BCom honors. My bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, and now you're in DU. So what kind of a person were you in DU? A very active person into activities, club activities, and all that stuff, or what kind of were you? Because I really want to know what added to your business mindset then.
So I don't know, if I should be completely honest, because there are students over here who might be listening. But
Hmm.
D has one thing that they're not very strict on attendance, right?
They are annoyed. It's an
Uh,
open fact.
yeah. So
It's an open fact.
yeah,
Right.
and one thing that I noticed very early on in my time at DU, that most of these clubs and these things were uh, I mean, I would not say politically motivated, but there was a lot of internal politics,
Right.
and I knew that being a part of a English literature club or a sports club or something is not really going to mean that I'm going to be very actively involved on that front. Like I did
Mm-hmm.
try. I do remember going and trying for the football team,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew what was happening internally with the coaches and the players who were there. So I knew
Right.
that this is not my place to be.
Okay.
So so I started using capitalizing on the fact that okay, there isn't any pressure on me to be in class.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to attend classes and I honestly hated them.
Mm-hmm.
I hated is a harsh word. I dislike them. Because
Right.
I have never been the kind who has enjoyed learning through books or through school or through college. I've always liked to learn practically, and
Uh-huh.
I knew that I'm studying economics or I'm studying business, but learning the definition of few things is not going to make me a successful entrepreneur. So
Right.
I used to spend a couple of days a week in college, and the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the days I used to do a lot of side hustles. So I had picked
Okay.
up a few work from home kind of internships. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I could be selling stuff. I had also worked for a real estate company, um,
Okay.
and I was working with them on a commission model. So I was
Mm-hmm.
actually selling houses while I was in college, and I was
You were
actually
selling
earning
houses?
money. Yeah, I was
You
I
don't
was with
tell
a real
me you
estate
made
company.
those commissions?
I did make commissions. I did make commissions so much so that I actually bought my first car I bought in my second year of college with my own money.
Oh my God. And which car was that?
It was a Skoda. It was a Skoda Laura. At that time, it
Oh
cost
my
about
God.
it cost about 12 lakh rupees. I still remember at that time, 12.8 something. But
Right.
yeah, so I had bought that, and that was basically like all of my savings were you know
Ha, ha, ha.
just put into that I just want a car because I am a big car enthusiast. I
Right.
uh, I was always like growing up. I was like, every last dollar that I earn will be spent on cars. So that was my mindset. But obviously now that I've grown up, I've realized that you have to diversify your investments and X and Y and
Right,
Z.
right, right, right,
But yeah,
right.
so it was like a big thing for me. I still remember my first check that I had got after
Mhm.
selling a house. I had uh, I had gone to Goa with a couple of my friends, and
Okay.
funny story over
Huh.
there because the amount of money was for me. I was very sensitive at that time. So for
Okay.
me, if I took 100 rupees to Goa, it meant spending 100. It did not mean spending 99 and bringing even 1 rupee back home.
Right.
So I still remember my friends who were just, in college and they were on pocket money and their parents had just given them some money to go to Goa versus me who was like had gone there with bank. I was
Right.
left, right, center, and I came back and these are two of my closest friends. Even today they're my closest friends, and even today when we talk about that time, they'll be like, "You were such a brag because you were like, oh, I have money, I have money, I have money." So it was a good feeling at that time, that my friends are working on stipends and small checks and pocket money, and I was able to actually hustle my way and make some side income, which was actually enough for me to go on vacations and buy vehicles that I like,
Hmm.
stuff like that.
Right.
So, so yeah, so I think, but then, that was a short time hustle, the real estate bit, because the money was good, but that was something that I did not really want to get into. And I knew that the money was so good that it may become addictive, that I'll just start doing this only.
Right.
So then I started spending a lot. Then instead of working with that company, then I worked with a proper established real estate MNC
Mm-hmm.
as an intern, where I was not working on commissions, and I said I'll work as a person who understands more about how corporates work, how MNCs work, because
Okay.
eventually I had to build up my own business.
Right.
So working with a real estate company, which is a developer,
Mm-hmm.
was more exciting because I would learn more about corporate functions and MNC functions
Mm-hmm.
than just working with a side shop,
Right.
right? So that was the beginning of my professional career, I would say, where I started learning more about businesses and structures and divisions and leadership and hierarchy and stuff like that. And that was actually, when I realized that money is not everything, and it's to be able to earn money consistently and to be able to build up such enterprises, which
Hmm.
will eventually bring in the money, right?
Right.
And that's where the focus sort of moved to. But yeah, college life in DU was a breeze. Attendance was never an issue. There were college groups, so we knew what days we had to go and give assignments. Assignments were automatically uploaded on these college WhatsApp groups. You just had to, there's always that one nice person who
That's all
who
the assignments.
yeah. So you to do them at your home, then you submit it. At the
Right.
time of exam, like I
Right.
am a quick learner. I will
Hmm.
say that. So I used to spend a month and a half before exam dedicatedly studying and get my whatever 60, 70% because I knew that college marks are not going to, uh, you know, do any wonders for me. I am not
Hmm.
the kind who is looking to get into, the MITs or Harvard of the world. I need to start working as soon as possible. And
Right.
MBA was never like a it was never a vision for me or a dream to be in the top MBA college of the world.
Mm-hmm.
I want to build up a top business of my own and go to the top MBA college to speak to the students over there. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's my dream instead of studying in the top MBA college. And you know, so that's why for me academics never really mattered a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how my DU life went.
Okay, so that's so. Chirag, you spent all the 3 years interning and working, like all the three,
Yeah, most of the three.
most of the three. Oh my God! And then you would also go during lunch times to your father's business, sit with him in the office, and then have some chit chats with him, right? As you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, so that was majorly in Bhadoi that I used to do.
Okay, okay, okay.
But even in during college times,
Mm-hmm.
I used to spend my time after work with my dad, and sometimes like when I had a day off or when I did not have anything to do, then I would go to his office and just understand what's happening.
My goodness. So this is like literally feels like, a workaholic talking to a workaholic who just don't want to do it, just to work, 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 work his way up. My God, there's so much to learn from you, Chirag. Okay, so now that you've left MBA 30 days later, yeah, 30 दिन में ऐसा क्या हुआ? I mean, how did you, sorry, not 30 days, 3 weeks. What really happened in those 3 weeks? And what did you really feel that, okay, there's an emergency, I need to go?
Yeah, so 3 weeks में कुछ नहीं हुआ था, 3 hours में ही हो गया था, to be very honest.
Okay.
But वो 3 weeks तक I extended myself. I
Okay.
pushed myself and I said, you know what, this is it. Like education and you will never cross paths after these 2 years. So just
Mm-hmm.
stretch it.
Right.
You have done your schooling, you've done your hostel, you've done your college.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. This is the last mile. Just push yourself.
Hmm.
And that is what I told myself and pushed myself. But 3 weeks के बाद नहीं हुआ. After that, I was like, you know, I I said I said to myself that entire college life, and Amity was the name of the college. I just said it out loud, but that's fine. Um, I
Uh,
they were strict on attendance.
right. Amity is
They were
very
very
strict.
strict on
Amity
attendance.
is very strict. I still
Yeah,
have friends in Amity and they still crave about the attendance factor. So I know that.
yeah. I know there was an app and everything. I had a phone
Right.
app which told me what classes are next, and it was indicating me my attendance at all times. And I was like, okay, this is too much, but good. I mean, good provisions for people who want to be, just glued to the academic
Right.
culture.
Right.
It's a great college,
Right.
but for me, I told myself that look, 3 years in DU, you worked
Right.
right, and you work like anything, which gave you a 3 year head start
Right.
to all your peers and all the other people, your friends, your family, your other people.
Hmm.
It gives you a 3 year head start. Why do you want to go back 2 years? Why
Right.
do you want to stop working now when you're already in the flow of working? Why do you want to stop and why do you want to start studying again? And that's what I did. And I said, I can't study at all.
Hmm.
The 2 years I can't spend wasting my time
Hmm.
because I didn't want to do a job.
Hmm.
So the MBA would have probably, after my undergrad, if I was getting X salary, the MBA from Amity may have made it 2x, may have made it 3x, may have made it
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
But I wanted to start my own business. And when I'm starting a business, nobody cares whether I'm an MBA or I'm a college dropout or even if I went to school or not, because it's my ability to do business and my ability to grow that business is what everybody cares about.
Right.
And that thought eventually struck. And I still remember I was in class and I was just constantly the only thing I was thinking at that time is what are my parents going to say and how are they going to react if I go back home right now.
Hmm.
And then I said, worst case scenario, I come back again tomorrow. I just lost some attendance. If they're very strict and they say nahi college karna hai hai.
Hmm.
So I came back. My dad was very polite. He said, go back tomorrow, speak to the admissions department and tell them that you don't want to continue.
Huh.
What is the refund that they can give?
Hmm.
I think they refunded about 70-80% of the amount that we had paid them,
Right.
which was also nice of them.
Right.
And yeah, I came back. They said come back in 3 weeks to collect the check. I
Hmm.
remember going back in 3 weeks to collect the check, and that was about it. That was the end of that journey.
3 weeks of MBA done. But I still want to know why did you get into this? Like, did your parents ask you, or what was it?
MBA?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was not my parents asking, but it's just the kind of society that we live in.
Right.
Um, it has to come down to that. Everybody is
Hmm.
like, first you have to do school, then undergrad, then
Hmm.
postgrad.
Hmm.
And even my extended family, all of my cousins, they
Hmm.
were following the same regime. after their undergrad, somebody was going to Dubai, somebody was going to London, somebody was going to ISB or whatever, different parts of India to do their MBA.
Hmm.
So everybody was doing their MBA. That was the bottom line. And so my parents said, "Sab kar rahe hain, tum bhi karo." And I was like, "ठीक है, I was also like, मैं सब कर रहे हैं तो मैं भी करता हूँ." And my friends were also doing their MBA.
Hmm.
So so then I just felt, if everybody's doing it, it must be a norm. I should also do it.
Hmm.
But then I soon realized that there is no point,
There's no point.
and I moved on. So I think a lot of us, even a lot of your listeners right now, would be feeling this, that they do a lot of things because the society expects it, or the society wants it, or the society is doing it.
Hmm.
And I think gone are the days where we look at how society operates and the pressures of society, and we should do what we feel is right, and we should not do what we feel is wrong.
Hmm.
So you should have your own voice, your own opinion, and go for it. With the worst case scenario, you can fail at what you're doing. The way worst case scenario for me, I would have failed at my business,
Hmm.
and I go back and I do my MBA 5 years down the line. Right, worst case scenario.
Right.
In that case, also I have an upper hand because I have N years of experience, so I can get a better college. I will have more learnings when I go for my MBA, and I will be able to contribute more value. So, MBA is always there. It's not going away.
Right.
Why do it today?
I like the thought process. I really like the thought process. So now tell me, Chirag, did Red Cliff happen just after this, or was there something between this also?
No, so Red Cliff happened just after this. Obviously, I was talking to a few people. I was talking to a few net contacts that I had made along my way as well.
Hmm.
Some rich people I had sold houses to. I was talking to them also because they were running businesses. So I had kept my thoughts open, and I was talking to a lot of people. I was talking to an investment banker as well. I remember who had bought a house.
Hmm.
Then there was another person who had a large factory here in Manesar.
Okay.
And he was looking at someone to sort of take over the entire factory and run it for him. Obviously, I was too young for that.
Right.
So you make relations, you make networks, and you have to keep a very broad and open mind that you are willing to work.
Right.
It may not be the ideal work, but work is work, and nobody is stopping you from working at a place for 12 months, and then you find your calling 12 months later, and you move on to that. So
Right.
for me, the idea was, अब बस काम करना है, जो काम मिल जाए मेरे को करना है.
Was calm.
And fortunately for me, I was lucky at that time that Dheeraj came along, and I wanted to work, and I wanted to work in this side of things, startup side of things,
Right.
and he was just the perfect person to work with.
Hmm.
And also, like, it's not that we just got along because I wanted to work.
Hmm.
He's also a great person. We built up more of a friendly bond, less of a professional bond.
Right.
Although there's a bit of an age gap as well, but you build up that comfort with the person you're working with, and then life is a breeze.
Right.
So with him, I could talk about things professionally. I could talk about things on a personal level as well.
Hmm.
And even today, he's always a phone call away. And I can talk to him about anything, whether it's professional or personal. And these kind of relations, they stick with you for a lifetime.
Right. Okay. That's quite a journey, yeah. It's quite a journey you've had, and mostly work, discipline, and work.
Yeah,
That's
but with a good balance
right.
of both, of family, of even the thing that I do and I love the most, travel.
Hmm.
I take every excuse that I get to travel, and I go out and I travel. I like to travel within India a lot,
Right.
but I would be lying if I say that I've traveled more of India. I have usually traveled more abroad,
Okay.
and that's because my work has got me across Southeast Asia for lots of conferences.
Okay.
And whenever I go for work, I make it a point that I spend another week after that. I The kind of travel that I do, I know it may have sounded from whatever I said that it must be the best of hotels and best of transport,
Mm-hmm.
but I love staying in hostels.
Oh.
I usually do end up staying in hostels,
Uh-huh.
and I do end up staying in co-living spaces where I can meet people. So, like, in Singapore, one of my investors, he has a business that's a hostel, but it goes by the name of Draper
Right.
and Draper House. So it's a business hostel. The concept is a business hostel. So whenever I go to Singapore, I make it a point that I live there. It's very cheap, just about 1100-1200 rupees a night.
Okay.
And I stay there. The whole hostel is full of entrepreneurs from different parts of the world.
Right.
Now imagine what a great feeling, to go to Singapore and live with like 30 entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
Somebody's from Africa, somebody's from Japan, someone's from China, someone's from US, and just the amount of learnings that you get is unparalleled. So yeah,
Absolutely.
so yeah, even I right now in January I went to Goa, and I was there for good 10 days. But I made it a point that there's a very nice hostel there by the name of Vayu near Morjam.
Right.
I stayed there, and I met so many bloggers, I met so many entrepreneurs, I met people from the media, a lot of people starting up, and you don't. There's nobody bragging there. There's no one talking about how big or small they made it. I met this girl. She has 220,000 followers on Instagram, and she was as normal gets, right?
Right.
So just meeting her, meeting similar people like her, and just having different conversations with them, you learn so much. So, but if I was in a five-star hotel or a four-star, even a two-star hotel, I would not have met these guys.
No,
That's the point.
that's the
So
point.
why
Right.
be confined to these kind of properties? Yeah, if you're going with family and your intention is to have a good time with your family and friends, then definitely go and stay in these kind of properties. But otherwise, you should always be co-living and co-traveling. I do that for work and I do that for passion as well.
So that's again a good learning, guys, how to network. I mean, you really need to pick up networking skills from Chirag. That is like one hell of a skill that he's got. So you need to pick that up. Okay, so now that Chirag, we know your journey and that Redcliffe and post Redcliffe, you've already told us how things have worked out and went forward. But what I would want to know that when you went on to work, when you went on to begin your own venture, and before that, this Redcliffe was there. So, what did the experience at Redcliffe teach you that has evolved your business mindset to doing your venture?
So, see, first, I was a bit of a lost soul
Okay.
in the early days because, I mean, obviously, whatever knowledge at that time that I had of the startup industry
Uh-huh.
was through newspapers,
Right.
right? And through my own online learning and understanding the space. There was not enough uh, conversation and buzz around it as much as there is today.
Mhm.
Today we have Inc42 and the likes who are really talking about it and trackers talking about it all day long.
Hmm.
At that time, obviously your story was there. I think Inc42 also was there, but there was not enough information and there was not as much buzz about the startup space. So,
Right.
but while everybody knew that this is the next big thing that everybody's going to do,
Right.
so um, it was a bit like what crypto is today in India, you know. so yeah, so I think in the early days I was a bit of a lost soul.
Mhm.
Uh, but I think the unfair advantage that I had was that whichever event I went to, I had the investor tag on me. So
Okay.
I and like one thing I'll tell you, I talked so much about networking and talked about conferences.
Hmm.
One thing that even
Hmm.
I felt early on was I felt very shy and not confident in approaching someone and talking to them.
Okay.
And it's absolutely normal to feel that. You will waste uh, you will go through 3, 4, 5 conferences where you go, you interact, you hear people, but you don't really have great conversations with you because you are always afraid and shy.
Hmm.
And that's fine. It's not really a wastage because it's a learning curve, it's a learning phase. You have to go through that
Hmm.
unless you're like a born networker or you're a natural networker,
Hmm.
which most of us are not,
Right.
including me.
Right.
So it's something you learn on the job. And this is one of the best things that I would say that I learned on the job. And it came easier to me because while everybody else had a startup badge or a exhibitor badge or a visitor badge, I had the investor badge. तो वो दूर
Okay.
से ही वो different color में दिख जाता है कि
Right.
investor है.
Right.
So then people start approaching you. And
Right.
I remember very good companies in today's day and age, their founders who were not renowned at that time, they would walk up to me and they would be like, okay, so you're from Redcliffe. Look, we're raising so and so. We do so and so.
Hmm.
And then naturally the conversation was happening because I was not conversing; they were conversing. I
Right.
was just listening.
Right.
So मैं एकदम वहाँ पे I was like this lost soul, थोड़ा सा झिझकता था, and I was a bit confused and a bit scared, but never let them feel so, because I was just standing there, not approaching anybody.
Right.
It may have come off as arrogance to them that this investor is just standing on a side, but this investor was actually learning, and I was just learning. So yeah, I think the most key thing that I learned from there, and then you observe, right? You have to observe. You see that how people are approaching you.
Ah,
You see how people are approaching other investors. And I remember I used to go out for coffees and lunches with so many of these entrepreneurs. If I was in Bangalore, I would go to Bangalore for 10 days.
hmm,
I would meet at least, 10, 15 entrepreneurs, at least one entrepreneur a day.
hmm,
And I would go to their offices. And for me, like my approach was not to meet a lot of people uh, because initially I was a bit shy as well.
right.
The idea was if I meet one person, I become comfortable with them, then I'll go for lunch also, then I'll go to their office also, I'll do a proper day visit with them.
Okay.
And, so that also made me understand a lot more about the entrepreneur and a lot more about the business.
Right.
And yeah, I think it just after having met these 350, 400 startups and having done so many conferences, both India and abroad,
Hmm.
it's just after that when you finally, now you become more natural. So I was, like, for example, invited last year by the Embassy of Switzerland for a large conference that was happening in Switzerland. It was I think one of the biggest invitations I've got in my life. It was an all expenses paid trip,
Right.
including flights, hotels, everything.
Right.
Only 50 people were called from India. I was actually one of the people who was supposed to be representing India at that conference.
Oh, wow.
Uh, and I was very confident. I was really looking forward to it. I'd made all my preparations.
Uh-huh.
Um, and these are conferences. This is a conference where the past has seen people like Barack Obama come and visit. So
Okay.
so that's the level of the conference that this was, an amazing conference. But then obviously the coronavirus happened, and
Right.
I could not be a part of it, which
Oh my
was
God, this corona.
the biggest bummer. Yeah.
Right, right, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I think from my time at Redcliffe,
Mm-hmm.
the most key learnings were networking.
Mm-hmm.
Another key learning was, so I used to spend a lot of time researching,
Okay.
and what happens with most of the entrepreneurs that I've seen
Mm-hmm.
is that they pick up any idea, they do some numbers on their calculator on the phone,
Mm-hmm.
and they feel this is great. ये बहुत पैसे बनाएगा ये business, इसको करते हैं.
Mm-hmm.
But for us at Redcliffe, we used to go through very extensive research.
Mm-hmm.
So, and no founder is going to tell you a sad story. Every founder is going to tell you a very great story and all the good points of their industry.
Right.
It was my job to find the bad points of the industry. So, so
Right.
such in-depth research and analysis of any industry,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it gave me a lot of knowledge about
Mm-hmm.
different verticals. So that's why today, whenever I have to talk about various industries from agriculture to whatever, it's rather easy for me to have those conversations because there is some knowledge still in my head about my research from those years, and
Right.
you understand different companies in that space, you understand different businesses, you understand what kind of revenues have been done,
Mm-hmm.
and then even if that knowledge is not there, if a new company has to come to me today, or if I have to think of a new idea to start a new company, I know how to do the research. I know
Right.
what are the challenges that can come in the coming weeks and days and years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's very important for most of us founders to actually research and do more in-depth analysis of the industry that they're getting into, because it's not every day that you start a new business. It's like I always encourage entrepreneurs that instead of starting in a hurry and thinking about, okay, I have to be first to market, I want that first mover advantage. Just take your 3 extra months, 3 extra days, 3 extra weeks, whatever it is. Do your research. Okay, you don't want your energy and your money and your efforts to go down the drain,
Mm-hmm.
because what's really going down the drain for a lot of people with that is the confidence. You might not have the confidence to again start up after thinking, oh, this was such a great idea. We really thought this was going to do, and then it failed. So while it's absolutely fine, it's absolutely okay to fail. There is nothing wrong in that. Um, you should be completely sure about what you're getting into before sort of starting your project. That's what I recommend. And so yeah, that's what makes it the most important. Another important thing that I learned at Redcliffe is research. Um, so yeah.
Okay, so guys, this is again an insight coming from, sorry, not insight, 2 cents coming from Chirag, which he picked up while working at Redcliffe. So that's again insightful, yeah. But since Chirag, you have had the benefit of really starting out from the perspective of an investor, right? And
Mhm.
then coming down to starting your own business. And you, as you earlier mentioned also, that you went to Dheeraj with lots and lots of ideas, and firstly like for many ideas he would tell you that this would work, this would not work, and then finally the idea came up for Deyor. So how did you really feel when he you know shut down your idea, telling that this wouldn't work? And what went through your head that yaar हर बार मना होता है? Is it good, is it bad, where am I going wrong, or what would go through your head?
So ये same feeling ना दो बार ही आता है. Number one, when Dheeraj was saying no for some ideas initially, and even today when I'm
Okay.
fundraising, if I reach out to 10 investors, it's not necessary that all 10 will say yes. There are chances that
Right.
6 or 7 will say no, right? So, and
Right.
it is discouraging. It is discouraging. Obviously, even today, it is discouraging when you go with full enthusiasm, passion. You pitch your business and idea to 10 people, and six of them say no. But
Mm.
you have to be very positive in your outlook towards things. I was always positive in my outlook towards things. I knew that if today this wasn't Dheeraj, it was my dad, he may have said yes for the first idea. He may have said yes for the second idea as well.
Mm.
But that's because, I am his son and he wants me to do the best. And he wants me to feel like he's doing everything for me.
Mm-hmm.
But having the ability to face rejection and then start afresh is a very strong quality to have, because had Dheeraj said yes for the first idea or the second idea or even the third idea, I may not have been where I am today.
Mm.
That business may have either taken off or it may have failed.
Mm.
Anything could have happened, right?
Right.
But at that moment where I am sitting as a fresher, as someone who has very less knowledge compared to the years of experience that Dheeraj had amassed,
Mm-hmm.
it just made sense to listen to him. And it wasn't like I did not have anything to do. I was still continuing with Redcliffe and I was working on investments and deals. And within that, whenever I had an idea, I would just pitch it to him. So I knew that ideas are coming in daily, ideas are being pitched daily, and ideas are being rejected daily. But something or the other at some point in time would definitely work out. And that it did. And even today for Dior, I know that I mean right now we are raising a very small round, but and currently also I'm talking to a few investors, and some of them do end up saying no. But as much as it is discouraging, it's also fine, because you can't have everybody thinking on the same line.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have everybody convinced. You can't have everybody in your corner.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Some of them will miss the opportunity. Some of them will find better opportunities or other opportunities that they may feel they are better.
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay. You don't stop hustling, and you keep at it. There are doors for you that will definitely open when the time is right.
Okay, okay. So now on this note, since you're talking about investments and everything, Chirag, I would also want to know that, what is the difference that an entrepreneur faces, or if he even faces at all or not, because I haven't been at that position yet. So what are the difference that he faces when he goes for the second, third, or fourth round of funding in comparison to the first check that he is struggling for? The other investors more welcoming because you have been invested once, or are, what is it like? I mean, I've got no clue. I just want to know the differences.
Okay. Okay. So I think the first and foremost most important thing that happens is you're better prepared.
Okay.
You have been through the journey once.
Mm-hmm.
You know what you did right, what you did wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like something as simple as what your presentation should be like, how long your presentation should be. What are the points that you've put into your presentation is very important, because you're going to land a meeting or a call with the investor after he is excited about what your presentation, what we call an investment deck or IM investment information memorandum,
Right.
right? So until and unless that is not to the point and concise, then the investor is not going to even schedule a call with you.
Right.
So these are things that I know I've been through this so many times, and that's why now I'm reaching out to people actively. There are a couple of startups, very small startups, that I'm already mentoring right now. So I'm helping them with all of this, because I've been through these things in my journey. So that's what the first and foremost thing is, that you are much better prepared. Not only your investment memorandum, information memorandum, but also after this, you get on that call with that investor, you get on that meeting. you know, like today I know that these are the set of 20 questions that the investor is going to ask.
Right.
इन 20 में से कोई भी 6-7 मेरे पास आ सकते हैं,
Hmm.
right? So now I need to, in my first round, I was absolutely clueless. What questions are they going to ask? What is the net promoter score? What is my
Hmm.
burn rate, churn rate? What is my runway? What is my ARR, MRR? Completely clueless.
Right.
Completely clueless on startup terms and what are these terms and what should I answer? Like literally, I remember my first round of funding. Although I did come from an investment background, but I had not been on this side of the table. So there were times where I was like, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to check that and get back to you. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to check this and get back to you. So this was my staple response to a lot of questions. In the next time,
Huh.
second, third, fourth round of funding, क्वेश्चन आने के पहले मैं आंसर रेडी रख लेता हूँ. मेरे को पता है कि क्वेश्चन कहाँ शेप हो रहा है.
Huh.
तो वो जो नॉलेज है ना वो बहुत क्रिटिकल हो जाता है. एंड देन व्हेन यू नो दैट these 20 questions are going to come, then your information memorandum also starts shaping up accordingly. You start putting in these data points into your investor presentation because you know that ये questions आने ही है. So आपका कॉन्सेप्ट ये होता है कि इन्वेस्टमेंट पिच देखते ही इन्वेस्टर जितना कन्विंस हो जाए उतना अच्छा है. लाइक आई टेल यू right now this fundraiser I'm doing, there are
Hmm.
people I've spoken only for 15 or 16 minutes on the phone. Meetings तो होनी थी कोविड की वजह से. मैं 15
Right.
16 minutes phone पे मिला हूँ and they have committed checks to me because my information is so to the point. The only reason I'm getting rejections right now from
Hmm.
investors is because people are still not convinced whether travel will pick up and when travel will pick up after the pandemic. Otherwise, all the business numbers, the business functions,
Hmm.
the team, our abilities, there is no doubt on that. We have everything in place from tech to product to service. Everything has been covered. It's just the only hindrance that we're facing is the pandemic, right?
Hmm.
So, but the point is that the investors that are getting convinced, barely any time is being spent. Barely any time. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20-minute phone calls, half an hour phone calls are like stretched phone calls. People don't have enough questions because we have been able to produce enough documentation and give it to them so that they can do their homework before talking to me. There are things like
Uh-huh.
financial models.
Right.
So initially what used to happen, मैं इन्वेस्टर प्रेजेंटेशन बना के भेजता था, उसमें नंबर्स होते थे.
Hmm.
तो इन्वेस्टर बोलता था कि okay, these numbers are great, it sounds like a bright future, where is the financial model?
Hmm.
Now you have never done a financial modeling in your life,
Hmm.
and financial modeling is one of the things that takes a lot of time for a founder to do.
Hmm.
So so then immediately we were like, okay, fine, now before we go to fundraise, we need to have our audited balance sheets in place, we need to have our projected financial models into place,
Hmm.
we need to have our P&Ls into place, whether it is from audit front, financial front, in the information front, everything needs to be in place. Only then you go into a fundraise. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and their time both.
Right.
So these are things, and still, I will still say that we are not perfect. There are still things we are learning. There are some investors who are still coming to us and asking for data that we don't have any idea about.
Hmm.
So with every subsequent fundraise, there's more learning, and you just get better prepared. But yeah, your confidence gets better in terms of investors. While they are obviously looking at how good the team is, how good the product market fit is, I think there is a little bit of bias. If you have some good existing investors on the cap table,
Hmm.
there's a little bit of extra bias if any of these good existing investors are reinvesting. Um, so
Okay.
and both are happening for us. So that puts us in a more comfortable spot.
Hmm.
So yeah, so that definitely does work out.
Okay, so guys, that's again two really important cents for you, right? Which are coming from Chirag right now. So again, a good thank you that I would want to say, but then this is really important. So see, and right now Chirag has taken so many terms, taken names of so many terms. I would say, keep probably you can uh, finesse your first pitch deck itself. Right. At least, if not finesse it, I would say know these terms and don't stand blank in there when you go and talk to the investor out there for the first time. So just make sure that this doesn't happen with you and you're better prepared. Okay. So now, Chirag, there's one thing that I have been wanting to ask. Okay. And
Yeah.
that has been there in my notes. So you mentioned that, you pivoted 2 to 3 times, right? After,
Mhm.
since the first idea. And what I really want to know is how did you really feel when you did each pivot? How was this factor coming in that कि यार फिर से pivot करना है, that didn't work out, फिर से change कर रहे हैं? How was that feeling, and how much motivated were you to get to the next level and do it all afresh?
I think every pivot felt like a mini startup,
Okay.
right? The same research, the same functions, the same number running, crunching, all of that was happening again. The same discussions with people: is this going to work? Is there a market for this? It's all happening again.
Right.
What benefited us was that the reason I said mini startup was because it was in the same trade.
Right.
So I went from travel to travel to travel to travel.
Right.
I did not go from travel to agriculture.
Right.
Right? That would have been challenging. That would have probably been a spin-off of a company completely versus a pivot.
Right.
And I think that's where we were a little calm because the team was already there. The execution team, the founding team, the management team, they were already there.
Right.
The tech stack was there. The investors and mentors were there. The funds were there. Everything was in place at this time. That's why it was a mini startup.
Right.
So stress on that front was not there. We knew that we have all the resources and capabilities at our disposal to execute something new. And only when we felt so, we did it. One thing that I do feel that patience is key.
Okay.
A lot of people, what they do is that, okay, let's pivot our model, and then they go like, 2 or 3 months में नहीं चला तो अब आगे क्या चलेगा, इसको बंद करो. Sometimes just stick to it, just keep at it. Even the smallest of trends that are coming in your favor, pick it up, see what's working, and if you feel like a little bit of it is also working, then just keep at it. A lot of us, we lose ground, and we feel, and we also used to do this a lot. Like we are two co-founders. We are a good management team. Some of us would just have a daily meeting or a weekly meeting and say, look, it's not working out. Maybe we should think of this idea. Maybe we should think of that idea. But you have to put it all together. You have to keep yourself together and go like, no, these are 3-4 things that indicate that, this business is actually performing. Let's stick with it.
Right.
You fix your internal timelines, you fix your external timelines, and you fix your targets. If you're not able to meet them, if you're failing at that repeatedly, just pivot again, or find another thing to do. Discuss it with people. Sometimes taking external help is also important. Like for us, our internal management or our founding team was against a certain idea, but then we would reach out to our external investors, reach out to Dheeraj and the likes, and take their bite on this, and that makes you sort of stay at it and just sort of just know that the thing is doing well. So yeah, but for us also, we knew that there were indications pivot after pivot that things are not performing well. We were losing money. We were not really having any. Like I'll give a real example. We moved to weekend getaways,
right?
Where we said we'll send people to Rishikesh. Abhi from Rishikesh में सिर्फ camp दे रहे थे, but now we'll send from Delhi to Rishikesh. We make them stay 2 nights. We make them do rafting and all.
Right.
4,000 rupee trip.
Right.
All inclusive, food, transport, रहना, खाना, पीना, rafting, सब कुछ 4,000. Margin was $800 again, 800 to 1,000 rupees. We were sending about 20-30 people per trip. Now imagine the unit economics. 20,000 rupees is your profit,
right?
Gross profit for a trip, right? And you can execute maybe 4 such trips in a month,
right?
In a month, so that's 80,000 rupees, right? Let's take the profit up by another 20,000, a lakh rupees you have made in gross profit in a month.
Right.
Now you have salaries to give, you have tech costs, you have supply costs, you have marketing costs. Do you actually feel that this 1 lakh rupees is going to be able to pay anything?
No.
Or, so that made us realize that, and the only way to make it successful was that if, like Rishikesh, I had 20-30 destinations performing at full scale.
Right.
Rishikesh was performing at full scale.
Right.
So if I had 30 destinations within India every weekend, giving me 20,000 rupees of profit, maybe it would have made a little bit of sense.
Right.
But to reach 30 destinations performing at full scale, to be able to market at that scale, to be able to acquire customers at that scale, required certain resources that were just not available.
Right.
So we realized that either we go out and find these resources, or we pivot it to something else that can be done with the resources at hand.
Mhm.
And it is always better if you pivot to something with the resources at hand
Right.
that you can scale and then get external resources to help you. And that was our biggest learning. That is what we did, and that's why we are at where we are today.
Okay, okay. So now that we've talked about pivot, and guys, this is again a 2 cents from Chirag. So now, Chirag, coming back, since we've talked about pivot, we've talked about your life at how what all you picked up from Redcliffe, and then you started over Deyor. I said, Chirag, did you do this juggling while you started Deyor? You were also there with Redcliffe for some time, like 2, 3 months, couple of months, or maybe more.
So no, so I had completely switched away from Redcliffe,
Mm-hmm.
and the understanding with Dheeraj was such that if Dior does not work out,
Mm.
then we come switch back to Redcliffe, right? So
Okay.
it's an entrepreneur in residence, we call it,
Right.
right? Where we wanted to convert people who were working at Redcliffe into entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
and I was the first example of that. So yeah.
I get it. I get it. Okay, so now Chirag, since we know all the story, now we know the complete ins and outs of you, your business, and everything. There's one thing that I would definitely want to know, and my listeners would definitely want to know. You also know that you come from a family background. You've had some unfair advantages out there. I would want to know what would you have done differently had Dheeraj not happened, because that is the point where things changed.
Yeah, good question. And I think I was already doing things differently before Dheeraj had sort of, I had started my conversations with Dheeraj. I had started reaching out to anybody and everybody I knew
Mm-hmm.
who was who was doing a business or who was doing something in the tech space or startup space, something which was going to be part of the new uh, India or the future of India, right?
Right.
So I had started reaching out to anybody and everybody, while I was also reaching out to people who were just doing normal dhandhas because I wanted to learn. See, it's not necessary that you have to be part of a startup to learn
Mm-hmm.
how startups operate. It is not necessary to be part of an MNC to learn how to learn to be able to do a business of your own. You
Right.
have to be part of a structure which is performing well,
Right.
an entity which is performing well, and where you can get to learn. So, one of the reasons why people join startups over MNCs is because the culture of startups is very different.
Right.
Today, any team member of my company is not limited to the function that they have been hired for. So, sales guy is not limited to sales.
Right.
He can look at service execution SOPs. He can look at finance side. So there is immense learning that you can get,
Right.
and you can just it's everything is so transparent that you can understand the entire end-to-end business functions of a company. So I would actually say, and I would actually strongly advise to anybody who is looking to start a startup to actually go and work for a startup
Hmm.
if you can manage. And thankfully in today's day and age, we have so many startups in India,
Hmm.
so many well-funded startups and so many funded startups, and so many startups that are even bootstrapped. They're doing well themselves.
Right.
And startups are really contributing to the economy, and they're really hiring people strongly.
Hmm.
Just go join any startup where you can get diversified learning,
Right.
because there are people like I meet even today who say I want to do something in the finance side of the business, but I'm not sure whether I really enjoy it.
Hmm.
So then why don't you join a startup in the finance team, and while also you get to monitor what other people are doing in sales and operations, HR, whatever you like, and then find your calling there. Maybe you could shift your roles within the organization, or maybe you could shift your organization completely.
Right.
So, so yeah, one I think if I was starting out today, I would definitely go and work for a startup.
Okay, okay. So that's another good thing that you've told us. And there's another thing that I would want to know, Chirag, that society generally sees children from a business family background as privileged, right? And they think that that you wouldn't have had to struggle because you come from family background. And because of that, and since you've already mentioned that you wanted to be a first generation entrepreneur, I want to know how has this societal, you know, mindset, and how has the societal culture shaped your mindset to be the entrepreneur that you are?
Yeah, I think a lot of people would feel that the privilege is there, and it was a better place to be in. A lot of people may not have such kind of backing to start off, but if I wanted to take the privilege route, then I would have. It was very simple for me to go and join my family business, right?
Hmm.
But that is something that I was absolutely against, and I said I'll start something of my own,
Hmm.
and that's why I hustled. Even during college, it was um, like the kind of background that you hear about. Why would you think that somebody like me was doing side hustles and trying to do various things and earn money on my own, buy cars on my own?
Hmm.
So the one thing, like for me in my mindset has always been that I want to be able to start supporting my house and contributing to my house as soon as possible, and I don't want to be the one taking that support, right? So that's the mindset that I do have, and along with my passion for various things like investments and vehicles and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the society barricade broke for me the day I left my MBA. That is the day when I stopped caring about society.
Hmm.
That is the day when I stopped thinking about what people say.
Hmm.
So today, while I have immense respect for my extended family, for the society, for my family, friends, and people like that, I uh, more often than not don't care about what they think. And I'm not talking about my immediate family. I'm talking about the extended group of people in the extended society,
Hmm.
because I know that when it comes to tough times, and everybody knows this. When it comes to tough times, what the real people who stand next to you is your immediate family.
Right.
The society will not stand next to you. If tomorrow you don't have bread to put on your plate, the extended family or the society is not going to come and put that bread, right? So you do what you have to do,
Hmm.
and you do what you think is right, and you do what you think will get you that bread on that plate for years to come, without caring about the society at all,
Hmm.
while obviously being nice to the society and obliging by the rules of the society and all of that.
Hmm.
But you do what you have to do, what you think is right, and you'll be the happier person when you're going to bed at night, because you have achieved on that day what you wanted to achieve. Even if the society is saying a couple of things about you, you got what you wanted.
Right.
So why care?
Okay, so guys, this is again something that coming from someone who knows what it means to have a backing and what he would have done had that backing not been there. So I guess that's again an inspiration that I would say, listeners, that you need to pick up, irrespective of the background that you come from. And more than the background, it's all about the mindset. That's what I believe. It doesn't really matter that, do you have a backing or do you not have a backing? You can have a backing and yet you fail at businesses, and you might not have a backing and yet you go on to make billions of dollars worth of business. So it's just about the mindset that I strongly believe. And anything that you would want to add to this, Chirag?
No, I think I both of us covered it quite well. We just have to be, I think once you make up your mind, it's important if you stick to it.
Mhm.
While there is so much information out there, there's so much knowledge. We may today think that we made up our mind towards something, and tomorrow you pick up new information, new data, and you feel, okay, no, I was wrong. It's fine. Change your mind. It's okay. But whatever you think is the right thing, stick to it. You will find people. Trust me. You will find people who will bring you down, try to bring you down along your journey. Okay, and it will be your closest friends, your closest extended family. Uh, but and it's not always that they will try to bring you down. They might even be trying to help you. But just stick and be around the right people. And as long as you're doing that, there is no way that you're going to fail in what you're doing.
Right, right, right. Okay, so Chirag, I mean, I have already asked you so many questions, grilled you for like past 2.5 hours almost. But there's a couple of more questions that I would want to know, right, before we
Sure.
end this thing. So Chirag, if I ask you now that after all of things have happened, and now that business also picking up after pandemic and everything's happened, now tell me, what are you currently struggling with?
As a business,
Yes, other business.
I think it's a no-brainer for us.
Hmm.
Uh,
Apart from
we're
pandemic,
a
please.
we're a travel. Yeah, see, that is see, struggles are there on many fronts.
Mm-hmm.
There are good struggles also. There are bad struggles also,
Okay.
right? So, for example, the bad struggle was the pandemic,
Right.
not having much to do over the 10 months, trying to do mini pivots and do new things which didn't work out or worked out is irrelevant because eventually you want to get back to travel,
Mm.
right? But then there are good struggles. So now that we've come out of the pandemic,
Mm.
travel has rebounded, right?
Mm.
And people are traveling again. Although yeah, we are far from a idealistic world in travel, but at least the destinations that Dior covers and that are our flagship destinations,
Uh-huh.
they have rebounded. People are traveling to those destinations. We are a very happy company,
Uh-huh.
right? We are making our dollars again. But then along with these things, we realize there are things like pent up demand and revenge travel. We're always going to happen. I myself went to Goa for 10 odd days after the pandemic.
Uh-huh.
Most of your listeners would have traveled after the pandemic because everybody was so tired of being at home. Now,
Mm.
what's happening for us is that the bandwidth issue is coming in. We have lesser people than we need in our office because the demand has surged so much that we don't
Mm.
have enough people to cater to them. Like I said,
Okay.
we are a tech platform, but there are people who try to WhatsApp us, who try to call us, who try to ask
Uh,
questions, and 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 we actually do not have enough people in our office. So we've been aggressively hiring
mm.
for the last month and a half. I think we have hired about close to 15 people in the last 3 weeks,
Wow.
right? And this is a travel startup that I'm talking about, right? So, so this is also a struggle,
Right.
but not every struggle is negative. Some struggles are good struggles. You enjoy those struggles. You really enjoy tackling them and maneuvering your way past these struggles.
Right.
So, so yeah, this is definitely one of the biggest challenges that now we have to prepare ourselves because we realize that there is a lot of demand going to come up.
Mm.
We've also, during the pandemic, been able to strengthen our relations across new geographies to be able to launch new locations.
Right.
So all of those locations are in place. The products are ready. Just the launch button needs to be pressed the moment the government announces that these destinations are open.
Right.
So we know that the moment we open those destinations, another set of people are going to be required to just handle these destinations.
Right.
So I think now it's going to be a bit of struggle, and I think I sound so ridiculous saying struggle with this thing, but over the next 9 months, a lot more destinations will be opening up. A lot more people will be traveling to these destinations. Our brand has become big enough that people are liking our services and people are really enjoying traveling with us.
Right.
So after all of this, the struggle for us is to be able to cater to as many people as we can moving forward.
Okay, that's the current struggle. So, guys, another insight what is happening inside the startup while they're dealing with this thing. Okay, so now I guess this is gonna be my last question. That's why I'm saying I guess. Remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Chirag, it has already been 2 years that you've been listed in Forbes 30 and the 30 Asia. Okay, so what change did that bring to you and your brand image, both on a personal and a professional front?
I think it was always my dream ever since I got to know about the idea of Forbes and Forbes 30 under 30.
Mm-hmm.
It was always my dream to be a part of this prestigious list.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel blessed that I was able to become a part of this list, and I always thank the guys at Forbes for selecting me into this list.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, obviously in terms of personal brand, business brand, it adds incredible value. It you become a trusted person or trusted brand automatically just because you've been titled, by them.
Right.
The more important thing is to understand that yes, you get the respect, you get the love because of these things.
Mm.
But just like many other things in life, this must also not be taken for granted. Um,
Right.
just because you're a Forbes 30 under 30 does not mean that the all the VCs in the world are waiting to put their checks into you,
Right.
right? Or all the angels in the world are looking to put their checks into you.
Mm.
It does not mean that it gives you access to wherever you want access.
Right.
It's a title. It's a very prestigious title, but it demands and commands you also to behave in a certain manner, and and do things in a certain manner.
Mm.
I think the best thing that came out of this is that it made me realize that now while I'm part of a certain prestigious list, I also represent that list. And for me, in all of my functionings and all my dealings, I have to be a lot more professional
Right.
and a lot more careful, because tomorrow's date, if I do something that is not very professional or not something that I should have done,
Mhm.
then that brings a bad name to Forbes list as well.
Right.
Saying that what kind of people have they put on the list? These guys are so and so and so and so. So we have to respect them. We have to respect the list, and by respecting all of this, you're respecting your co-members in the list, right?
Right.
And you're keeping the dignity of the list alive. So yeah, so I think overall it made me realize that number one, I can't take it for granted that I have all the access in the world, and number
Mhm.
two, I have to be even more professional and more serious about my dealings. It also makes you realize,
Mhm.
that now the kind of expectations that are there from you
Mhm.
are much higher. It does put you into a little bit of pressure. I'm not kidding. That you have to perform, you have to deliver, like as per the expectations of what is expected out of a person who's in that list.
Right.
So for me to be able to build up my company further, to be able to go into Series B, Series C, take it as close to being a unicorn and possibly a unicorn in years to come.
Right.
That is when I will feel like absolute justice has been done
Mhm.
to being a part of the list. So yeah, so definitely a great feeling. I still remember the day when I got it. I still remember I was up at 4:30 in the morning when I got that email,
Mhm.
and then I did not sleep for the next 24 hours. I think So the excitement and all was there,
Right.
and the excitement is still there today also. But it comes with its own set of responsibilities and good responsibilities that you want to live up to, and you feel proud every moment, but you also feel that you're carrying a lot on your shoulder and you must deliver.
Right, right, right. Okay. Now answer this as quickly as you can. I want you to think of the biggest failure that you have faced in your entrepreneurial journey and tell me how you cope up with that.
So my biggest failure was that while I was in Reckless,
Mhm.
I we had invested in a shoe company
Okay.
that we had bought out of London,
Okay.
and so I took up a side project in that where I said I'm not only going to be doing this deal, but I would also like to work in this company. Like as Reckless, I would like to be the guy who is who is pushed into this company to sort of make sure that all the work is happening in a seamless manner.
Right.
So I think that business was a great idea. The app that we built up was a great idea. I will not name the business. We did very well. We could have done very well. That business could have been one of the most leading shoe brands in the country today.
Mhm.
But I feel that I did not do justice on my side as well.
Okay.
In terms of being able to juggle my time between Redcliffe and that company.
Mhm.
So that's definitely one of the larger failures. But yeah, we learn from each failure, and we only progress from there on.
Okay, okay, okay. And if I ask you to look back at your journey now and tell me that one incident that has happened with you and has changed you top to bottom.
Good question. So
Yes.
wow, I mean, there's so much that has happened that that keeps evolving and that keeps changing. But yeah, I think how many can I share?
As many as you
I think
want.
obviously the key one is meeting Dheeraj, which we've already talked about.
Right,
That is obviously one of the things that changed me the most.
right,
Um, being listed in Forbes has changed me quite a lot
right.
for sure. But yeah, there are some achievements that I wanted in my life that are still we might still be able to achieve,
Mm-hmm.
that we have not been able to achieve so far. So I think yeah, as a company and as me as Chirag, I am constantly pushing. So these are things that happen once in a year. We are constantly pushing, and these are not awards or ceremonies and stuff like that. These are I would say accelerators or programs that you can become a part of as a company,
Uh-huh.
and we are very keen to become a part of these activism programs. We've tried for the last 2 3 years, year on year, but not found success yet.
Uh-huh.
But we are very persistent. We get back every year. We try again. We write them emails every year. We tell them this is our third attempt, fourth attempt,
Mm-hmm.
and we're very proud of it. But because we know that we have the bandwidth and capability to be a part of these programs once
Right.
at least.
Right.
And if it's not with Dior, it'll be with the next venture. If
Uh-huh.
it's not with the next venture, it'll be with the one after that.
Mm-hmm.
But we keep trying, and I think that's the most important thing. That if you are not succeeding at anything, don't be let down by it. Keep trying, keep trying. You know that you might fail again, but again, just get back up and keep trying. And the ability to do that again and again is something that I think is is something that we have, and we don't want to part with that ability, for times to come.
Okay. 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 That's a nice one. Yeah, I mean, after a long time, not for the after long time. Probably, I'll say after the first time I'm listening that someone is telling that they are rigorously trying to get into a cohort and an accelerator program. So that's
Yeah,
that's quite amazing to listen to. Okay, so now Dheeraj, sorry, Chirag. I guess there's
yeah.
not much that I would want to ask, but to sum it up, if you have to give out a business mantra, what would that be?
A business mantra.
Yes.
I would uh, I would say that right now is the best time to start if you're wanting to start. But be completely prepared and don't start alone. Find the right partner to start it with. If you don't have the right partner, the journey will be very short-lived. So the most important thing that you have to find is the right partner, person who believes in your idea, who's as passionate about the idea as you are, if not more. And from there on, he or she helps you build the team that that is going to be, sort of your right arm and your left arm. So if you're starting something and you don't have the right partner and the right team, stop it right then and there. There's no point in moving forward. It is destined to fail. So so my strong advice would be to find the right guys to work with before you start on your journey for any business. And um, obviously, network. The most important thing in life that you can do is network. Go for as many conferences. I'll actually just share an example
Okay.
that I did not share
Sure.
before.
Sure. Sure.
I I had gone for a conference. This was a 2 night, 3 day conference organized by Inc. for Two
Okay.
in 2017. I remember,
Okay.
and it was a conference where the idea was it was in Jaipur in the Marriott Hotel,
Okay.
and the idea was that investors and startups under one roof
Right.
on a 2 night, 3 day vacation.
Right.
So the conferences are going to happen during the day, and then the fun activities are going to happen during the evening.
Right.
There were a lot of people who took the fun activities a little bit too fun, and they would sort of go back and sleep early,
Right.
and then you can be like the other people who are there, who are very focused, just all night meet as many people as you can. You're living with the investors, right?
Right.
So so that was one place where, after the 2 night, 3 days of being there, we ended up raising a round. So, and so much so
Right.
that one of the investors had actually come from Singapore, and this is a Japanese fund, and we met them. Over the next 2 days, we spent a lot of time with them.
Uh-huh.
We explained them more about the business idea,
Uh-huh.
and they actually ended up investing in us. And we were their first investment in India, their first investment.
Wow.
So yeah, so that is the power of networking. I mean, we could have really enjoyed our vacation. We could have had a couple of extra drinks. We would have gone to sleep early, partied with other entrepreneurs. All of that is fine. There's a place and time for that. But when you are living, or when you have an investor next to you, just complete focus.
Right.
Deadlock yourself into focusing on that investor, and just figure out how you're going to convert
Right.
that investor. And that's only going to happen if you're as natural, as honest, as genuine
Right.
a networker as you can be. Share your facts, share your truth, share where you have your problems,
Mm.
and ask them for their help. Tell them that you're not perfect, and that's why you're looking at them not only as money, but as smart money. Where they can come in not only with the money, but also with the help that comes along with the money.
Mhm.
And investors will understand your side of things and will definitely go for it. That's what happened with us. So yeah, the right team and the ability to network will take you quite far for sure.
Okay, okay. So guys, now you have the actual 2 cents. ठीक है पिछले वाले दो थे इनको चार कर लो but here are the final 2 cents from Chirag, right? And one thing, if I have to really sum it up, I have said it before also, but this one thing that I can just say bang on that Chirag has been, it's networking. I mean, you have definitely heard on other podcasts, persistence, that is definitely there, like networking, team building, and not failing, following the passion, all those things. But this is something really new, really, really new that's coming out, networking. I mean, just go for it. Talk to me, people. Many, 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 many people. Definitely something will work out. So with that said, we're done for this podcast, and I want to thank you so much, Chirag, that you came up on the show. It's been really, really amazing exploring your journey and learning along with you. It has been really insightful how you got up from Badoi to Gurgaon and your business and everything out there, and Forbes 30 and 30. Oh my God, I still cannot digest that. But yes, thank you so much for coming in. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Likewise, Sarthak, I think it was so good after so long to reminisce and go back so far back. I don't think I've gone that far back in a long time, and to actually talk about all the journeys in so much depth. Most of our days and time goes into building the future and for the future that we don't even talk about the past. But I think this was a much needed break from that
Right.
and a much needed conversation. And really thanks to you and your team for making this happen and allowing me to be a part of this. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chirag. And since you're in Gurgaon, I really look forward to meeting you sometime soon and catching up. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much again. And guys, yes, do not forget Chirag is all up to helping you out. Any entrepreneur, any startup, do reach out to him. That's it. Thank you so much, Chirag. See you soon. Bye bye. I hope that you're able to take back something insightful from this podcast and apply it in your life to be a better version of yourself and add to your Dhandho Ni Soch. If you know someone whom you think should feature on my podcast and has a very inspiring entrepreneurial journey, then do drop me a DM on my Instagram, SarthakVarshny. Sarthak Varshney. Yeah, that's me. I'm the founder of SV Clicks, and SV Clicks is the producer of this show. You can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn as well with the same name. If you're willing to listen to more of such unheard, inspiring stories of the entrepreneurs, then don't forget to follow us by pressing that follow button on your podcast screen. Thank you for being such an amazing audience. Keep learning, keep growing. We'll be back soon. See ya.